Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day. Good to see you again, my friend.
Hey, it's always great to be here.
It's been a while.
4 years. January 8th. January 15th.
Was it really?
Yeah, that long ago.
4 years. Jeez.
Yeah, it's been 4 years.
But last time you were here, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I think the last two.
That was like right after a couple months after I moved
here. Yeah.
Yeah, so almost exactly 4 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, waiting was great.
Waiting?
I mean, the time, 4 years, waiting to have another chat with you, because so much has gone on since last we met.
Well, tell me. What's going on?
Where do you want to start? A? Z?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Let's see. The family's expanding, which is great. All three daughters have been married, and each has a grandchild, which is making me feel old. So I've stepped up my hormonal treatment to keep me on edge, because I want to be around a lot longer to take care of these kids or to be with the kids. They're just 16 months, but they're still fantastic.
That's
Unbelievable.
Awesome.
I love it.
That's great.
Absolutely love it. But in the world that I work in the medical arena, it's been expanding rapidly. The new administration has a part to play in it, which is great. But even before that, the number of results that we're having, the outcome from TBI, PTSD, and what have you, has been accelerating because of some of our testing that we do, as well as our treatment that we've initiated. That's changed since 4 years ago, since last time.
What have you added in the last 4 years?
Well, we've added a lot more nutraceuticals. Natural products into our regimen. I spent 16 years looking at the science behind things that can get into the brain and alter the inflammation that occurs in the brain. The whole premise of everything that I've been doing for the last 30 years has been based upon inflammation in the brain. And the inflammation is what stops all the chemistry and why we develop anger and problems. I don't know if you saw the article, which is called "Influence of Media on the Mental Health of America," which used to be called the Trump derangement syndrome, but I got so much backlash from having that title. People wouldn't read it because of the title. And it talks about how constant stress from the media, echo chambers, social media, reading all this bullshit, causes cortisol to go up.
No doubt.
And it shuts down a chemical that protects your brain called fractalkine. And then it starts dumping all this inflammation and causes loss of serotonin, so you become more depressed. It causes loss of melatonin, so you can't sleep. Generates another group of chemicals that induce depression. And
it essentially generates this response in your body that prepares itself for a fight that never takes place.
Correct.
And then you're always thinking you're about to get into some sort of a physical altercation with an armed enemy coming over the top of the hill.
Yeah, vigilant state, just like our Army goes through. Constant stress.
Exactly. And the Army and a lot of these people that you've worked with is from IEDs and from blowing through doors and stuff like that. They get damage to their pituitary gland. We've talked about it many, many times on the podcast.
But I think one of the misperceptions is, as you said, and I apologize for that, is that we think it's all due to pituitary gland, but it isn't. In the work that we've been doing, it shows that when you have inflammation in the brain, regardless of how it's developed, whether or not it's IED or slip and fall, or as we've talked in the past, even wave runners, ski-doos, or skiing or water skiing, snow skiing, or going to the range, the 50 caliber gunners. What happens is it creates this inflammation that shuts off the ability of the brain to regulate the pituitary gland. So you can do all the MRIs as they do at the VA, and they see a normal pituitary gland and says, oh, pituitary is normal, you've got PTSD. But there's no radiological or neuroradiological procedure that will allow you to look at inflammation in the brain. So they assume they can't find any structural damage, that it has to be all psychiatric.
Sort of like when they used to have to diagnose CTE after you're already dead.
Correct.
Right?
Isn't that how they're doing it now?
No, I think they can scan for it now.
There's a PET scan that can look for the tau protein.
Is that what it is?
It's tau proteins, hyperphosphorylated tau becomes these NFTs, these neurofibril tangles, which is an interesting issue. It's been part of my last year of deep dive, trying to find out why is it that you develop CTE or the symptoms relative to CTE? Why is it that you develop the symptoms relative to Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or multiple sclerosis? Well, it turns out that the biochemistry is all the same. Something called beta amyloid, which is the hallmark for someone with Alzheimer's disease, and then these tau proteins, hyperphosphorylated tau proteins that they call NFTs, that they circulate around the blood vessels, and they create this intense inflammation, and that intense inflammation causes loss of blood supply, damage to neurons, and you develop it. So we've had, using our protocol, we have our 6th case of multiple sclerosis that was totally put into remission. It took 90 days to put him in remission. It was a lieutenant, it's a video up on...
and what's the protocol that did that?
The protocol is the Nutraceutical that drops the inflammation and replacing the hormones that are deficient that protect the brain.
What is in the nutraceutical?
In the nutraceuticals, there is quercetin. You know about quercetin. It's got DHA from omegas. It has in it glutathione, N-acetylcysteine. It's got B12. That's on one component of it. The other component has B1, B2, which deals with neural communication. And then it's got PQQ and CoQ10. PQQ is a form of CoQ10. It's a sister. And it's 100 to 1,000 times stronger. But it's what it does. It increases mitochondrial function. I know you've had a lot of people here talking about mitochondrial function, and that's a major piece in how to reverse things like neurodegenerative diseases and improve mental functioning. I mean, products like you have, like Alpha Brain, has an effect on improving mitochondrial function. And that's what you want to do. That's a key. So you have to drop the inflammation because inflammation causes mitochondria that produce ATP. It causes mitochondrial dysfunction. So in all those neurodegenerative diseases, mitochondrial dysfunction has been ignored in the past, and you need to address it. So PQQ and CoQ10 are two very, very potent when added together. They stimulate mitochondrial ATP production and replication of mitochondria. Quercetin does the same thing. That's why it's so important. So
quercetin, you were explaining to me before that it's an ionophore.
Correct.
And that it gets ions into the bloodstream
Correct.
better. So it's when you consume it with zinc.
Right.
This is a paid advertisement for BetterHelp. Life is kind of like a book, and every new year is the start of a new chapter. Except in this case, the pages are blank, and you can write whatever the fuck you want. Maybe you're working towards buying a new home. Maybe you want to learn how to garden or pick up hunting. Or maybe you want to work on your relationships. However you want your story to play out, it's going to take work, dedication, and a little bit of help. Even the greatest authors have an editorial partner to bounce ideas off, and that's nothing to be ashamed about. If you need some help living the life you want, therapy is always a great place to start. Therapy is for everyone, not just people who've gone through a major trauma. It can teach you valuable skills like how to cope with stress, how to communicate better, how to set boundaries, and more. One of the best ways to get into therapy is BetterHelp. It's entirely online, so it's easy to get started and more affordable too. And as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Write your story with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/JRE. That's betterhelp.com/JRE.
But
But
that's one. That's one of its functions. But there are 5 functions that it has. Quercetin is amazing. It's an ionophore, which is when we talked about COVID and zinc. It carries zinc into the cell to shut down the ability of the COVID, SARS, from replicating.
or antivirus, essentially, right?
Well, it works with SARS, and it works with influenza A and B. It works with rhinovirus and enterovirus, gut viruses that you can get during summertime.
So what I was just getting at is it's beneficial for people all year round, not just
Absolutely.
people that think they might be getting COVID.
Absolutely. So I take 500 milligrams twice a day,
Of quercetin, and how
quercetin.
much zinc with that?
30 milligrams.
Okay.
I take 30.
And you do that twice a day?
I do that, the quercetin twice a day, but zinc, because my levels are where they're at, I don't put put a lot of zinc in, because zinc's involved in about 300 processes in the body. It's antiviral, that we just talked about. It's anti-Alzheimer's, because it turns out that the production of the chemical called beta amyloid, there's an enzyme that regulates it, and it's zinc dependent. So if it's working, it's called secretase. It's called alpha secretase. It's zinc dependent. Beta secretase is not. So beta secretase takes and makes the beta amyloid that causes the Alzheimer's, the inflammation. And with that inflammation, you then start getting the same thing in CTE. So in all these inflammatory conditions, they have the same beta amyloid and cause for CTE, the hyperphosphorylated tau protein that we call NFTs, neurofibril tangles. So they're all related. So what quercetin does is it increases mitochondrial replication in about 7 days, doubles the amount of mitochondria intracellularly. It helps increase in the liver something called IGF binding protein 3, insulin-like binding protein 3. Binding protein 3 is always looked at as being the carrier for IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, growth hormone, turns on in the liver the production of insulin-like growth factor, which is the main below-the-neck growth factor for our body, improves protein synthesis, decreases inflammation too.
Wow. Okay. A sidetrack. When you're talking about beta amyloid and Alzheimer's, wasn't there a significant amount of fraud that was exposed about Alzheimer's studies that put into question a lot of the ideas that people had about Alzheimer's? Wasn't that something that happened recently?
Well, in the train of thought on Alzheimer's, they're saying that it's due to the recessive genes. Well, if you look at the studies recently, 95% of the cases of Alzheimer's disease appear to be due to trauma and aging. Trauma and aging. Only 5%.
So trauma, like head trauma?
Head trauma. Because what happens is trauma stimulates the brain because of inflammation to increase the production of beta amyloid. And it's because they found recently another secretase. What secretases are the enzymes that convert a protein called APP, Alzheimer's precursor protein. And it's a long protein, and two enzymes go in and clip it here and clip it here. And that piece is beta amyloid. That's the bad stuff. That's a beta secretase and a gamma secretase. But they also have something called alpha secretase. So if alpha secretase and gamma secretase cut this APP, it generates alpha amyloid, which is inert, not inflammatory. And so what did they find recently? Something called delta secretase. Delta secretase and gamma gives you beta amyloid. So how do you generate delta secretase in the body? Trauma, aging. So that's why most of the cases of Alzheimer's disease are inflammatory based. So what are the things that...
I'm sorry, but most cases, is there a certain age where people start to develop it? And has there been any cases of very young people that get Alzheimer's?
There's a young form of Alzheimer's, and that might be directly due to having had head trauma and developing this delta amyloid or delta secretase, generating amyloid, beta amyloid that creates the Alzheimer's disease. As you get older, 65 years of age and above, that could be 5% genetic, but I think what the literature is really speaking towards is that it's all has an inflammatory basis. Remember, trauma in the brain equates out to inflammatory processes. It's part of the brain's ability to try and protect us.
Right.
Okay? Remove junk, bacteria, mold, viruses from the brain, and also metabolites of abnormal metabolism in the brain.
What was the scandal, the
I don't
Alzheimer's research scandal? Because it was pretty significant, and they were saying that it throws into question all of these previous assumptions and therapies that they were providing for Alzheimer's disease. And this person had made a significant amount of money.
Yeah. It's the antibodies. It's the treatment protocols, the antibodies against beta amyloid. And they found that even though you were against beta amyloid, you were still progressing on to develop symptoms of Alzheimer's disease.
But they were talking about fraud. Now, this was like fraud in
Just
scientific
recently.
research.
Yeah, this is recent.
How a retracted paper affected the course of Alzheimer's research.
But it's one paper, and what was the
Right.
focus of?
Okay. June 2024 landmark Alzheimer's
Beta
research
amyloid.
paper was retracted due to fraud allegations. Do we waste billions of dollars and thousands of hours of scientist time? Maybe not. Are new potentially hopeful drugs on the market targeting the subject of the paper, amyloid beta? The video breaks down the amyloid beta hypothesis, the fraud itself, and where we go from here. So what is the fraud itself, Jamie? Does it say? So you can find an article that's just not a video, not attached to a video.
Fake beta amyloid data. See, they've been relying on beta amyloid as being the focus. And what they're finding is the treatment that addresses beta amyloid, an antibody against beta amyloid, people are still getting progression of the disease.
I understand this, but I just want to know what the fraud was.
Oh, okay.
So what is the fraud? Amyloid hypothesis. Scroll down a little bit, Jamie. What's the fraud? Where does it get to the what did the paper bullshit about?
Putting it into perspective.
Okay. 56 paper lead to.
But later published
Where's that
and failed to
fucking-
find.
Where's the fraud? What's it say?
Let me try a different search.
Yeah, just find out like what was the.
tried.
This seems like very involved. This is a science journal.
Well, you know that in there are papers that have been written about reproducibility. Reproducibility is where a researcher does a paper, makes a claim about the results of his science, and then people look at that and they want to go and reproduce it to prove it. They found that 70% of them can't be reproduced. And when you looked at the actual scientists who did the original work, goes back and tries to reproduce it, 7% failure rate. So there are major publications that have talked about this reproducibility error. I mean, you can go on to Google Scholar or else into Google and look at reproducibility.
Okay, here it is. But over the past 2 years, questions have arisen about some of Masala. How do you say his name? Masila.
Masila. You were great.
Maslia.
Yeah.
Maslia. Maslia's research. Science investigation has now found that scores of his lab studies at UCSD and NIA are riddled with apparently falsified Western blots. Images used to show the presence of proteins and micrographs of brain tissue. Numerous images seem to have been inappropriately reused within and across papers, sometimes published years apart in different journals, describing divergent experimental conditions. After Science brought initial concerns about Maslia's work to their attention, a neuroscientist and forensic analysts specializing in scientific work who had previously worked with Science produced a 300-page dossier revealing a steady stream of suspect images between 1997 and 2023 at 132 of his published research papers. Science did not pay them for their work. In our opinion, this pattern of anomalous data raises credible concern for research misconduct and calls into question a remarkably large body of scientific work.
Okay, so it seems like the fact that he was reusing the same images, stating that they were new images, so he was stacking the deck in his favor.
Right.
Because he had a point to make. That
God, that's so gross.
Yeah, $2.6 billion.
Budget, that's what the budget was.
That's
for,
the National Institute of Health, yeah.
Jeez. Dwarfs the rest of the National Institute, the NIA combined.
He was in charge of the Division of Neuroscience.
That is so crazy. So the budget of the Division of Neuroscience alone was $2.6 billion in the last fiscal year. And this guy was a key leader for the effort. Man, how gross. But that's pressure and competition and very ambitious people who have shitty morals.
Yeah, well,
right? That's what that is.
Yes, publish or perish.
Publish or perish is the motto, right?
That's the motto. If they don't publish and have a positive finding, they're not going to get funding for the next project that they have.
And when someone does publish, like this gentleman who allegedly published falsified data, is there someone who goes over that stuff to make sure that that's not the case?
Yeah, the editors of the journal that he's presenting it to.
Right, but is there preferential treatment for people that are established scientists that are thought to be beyond criticism?
Theoretically,
Like a gentleman like this who has an enormous position of power and a $2.6 billion budget behind him?
well, but look at the bottom line. Which pharmaceutical company was involved in it? Okay. Which pharmaceutical? And, that's one of the problems that, RFK Jr. will be generating, is that as he finds that this science is 70% you can't reproduce it, meaning that
Right.
it's maybe not accurate. Maybe there's a little bit of
that's being kind.
bias.
That's being kind.
I'm trying to be kind.
Yeah, because
I don't
otherwise it's fraudulent, right?
say- it is correct.
I was just reading an article about Alzheimer's that was claiming that Alzheimer's didn't even exist until modern times.
Statins.
Statins cause Alzheimer's? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
here-
This article was connecting it to our diet, the standard American diet. And they were saying that all the bullshit food that people eat is contributing to this condition. And what I was going to get to you is that would lead to inflammation, correct?
You got it.
Because the bullshit American diet filled with crap is terrible for you, and that leads to inflammation.
You look at the inflammatory neurodegenerative diseases. What does everyone have now? It says a low inflammatory diet.
Right.
That's what
right.
it talks about. Also, in high-impact interval training and high-impact aerobics, what happens is you can increase a chemical in the brain called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is something that helps to improve neuron-to-neuron communication and neurology of your brain. And I don't know if you saw, we have one of your favorite guys, Gerald McClellan. I don't know if you've seen some of the papers that have come out. He had a stroke in '95 fighting Nigel Benn in London. And during that fight, it was a horrible fight if you've ever seen the...
It's a crazy fight. Yeah.
So anyway, he had a stroke from that and was
Right.
hospitalized for 11 days in a coma in ICU in London. Gets out, his sister, Lisa McClellan, refuses to put him into a nursing home, into a hospice health, takes him into the house in Chicago, and for 29 years dealt with him. She develops an organization called Ring of Brotherhood, where Muhammad Ali's niece and son, I think, are part of it. And they take care of boxers who are leaving the ring who have symptoms, punch drunk, or what do they call it, precox or pugilistic, dementia pugilistic, yeah. And she contacted me and told me about her brother, and I looked at stuff, and what we did was we set up a fund, and we paid for his laboratory work and his initial assessment, and we found he was hormonally deficient. So what we ended up doing is putting him on to the hormone replacement and to one of the peptides that we use, which is called N-acetyl C-Max, which stimulates the brain to produce more brain-derived neurotrophic factor. He's in Chicago. I'm in California, or here in Texas, in Magnolia. And one of our docs in Chicago took the lead. I just gave her what to do. He's 20% better in 4 months on the protocol. He's now remembering things. He's communicating. He's on the phone. And a boxing journalist, Oliver Fennell, came from London to Chicago and wrote a paper which is called A Day in the Life of Gerald McClellan, and talks about what happened and where he's gone. And he's had some improvement.
That's incredible.
Phenomenal. 20% improvement.
I'm sure we talked about Rick Perry before
Sure.
the podcast started, so I'm sure you're aware of his push to legalize ibogaine and start using ibogaine for people with traumatic brain injuries. And he was talking about how it regenerates neural tissue and helps people significantly. And then on top of that, the addiction issue, where people have addictions, and ibogaine is incredible for curing those, like literally curing them. In one session, it's in the 80% range. With 2 sessions, it's somewhere around 97%, which is just crazy. 93 to 97%.
It's phenomenal. I give a lot of credit to Rick Perry. In 2022, they had HB 1802, which is the first bill in any state where the state put money into a research project at Baylor for it was for psilocybin is where he started. So it was Rick Perry. Andrew Marr was part of it, along with Dr. Martine.
Shout out to our friend Andrew.
Yeah. Hello, Andrew. Let's see, Dr. Martin Polanco, who I'll cycle back to because the ibogaine issue is what he helped to develop. So it was also Representative Alex Dominguez who helped to push it through to get the funding for it. And it's at Baylor with a doctor by the name of Lynette Averill, PhD. She's, I believe, the one who's in charge of it. But recently, we have ayahuasca, we've got ibogaine, we got LSD, we've got MMDA. The ibogaine seems to be really good for addiction and for neuroregeneration, which is what you were talking about, to improvement in the neural function. Downside is the cardiovascular, so it has to always be under a very strict, very close observation.
Right.
And the doctor that I talked about, MD, Martin Polanco, who has clinics in Mexico, uses ibogaine. And one of our new vets who came on board in one of the other states set up a 508 charitable organization. The 8 is a religious organization. He imports ibogaine from, I think it's Chile, and gets it here in the States and then sends it to Mexico to Dr. Polanco to do studies. So right now I believe he has the largest group of studies. And one of the things that really has to be looked at is the compassionate use of these products. You've got guys that are coming back from war who everything isn't working, everything. So you have to start pulling the stops out and treat them. I mean, if you really want them to get better.
Especially when there's real evidence that there's not just anecdotal evidence that they work, but there's actual scientific evidence of their effectiveness. There's mechanisms, we understand.
Right. So I think might have sent you a preliminary paper I'm working on the neurotransmitters to identify how each one of the psychedelic-assisted therapeutic agents work in the brain. And the science is already out there. So what does it tell you? The foundation for how they work, why they work, and how they work is already there. So why aren't we using it?
Well, because of a stupid law that was passed in 1970 to punish Richard Nixon's political opponents. That's really what it is.
Was it?
Yeah, that's what it is. It was about the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement. And so one of the ways to get at these people, they knew that one of the big shifts of culture, if you go back to, we talk about it ad nauseum on the podcast, but there's just a gigantic shift in culture from the 1950s to the 1960s. It's almost unimaginable the amount of change that takes place. And what you have to imagine as a person today is 2015. Now, you think in time, things accelerate even more rapidly and change is more exponential. It's more crazy in time. And it's kind of sort of true with some technologies, especially today with AI. But if you go back to 2015, and if you were just driving around in 2015, everything is essentially the same. The phones look pretty much the same. The cars look pretty much the same. There's not much difference. There's not much difference in your life. If you go from 1959 to 1969, you have a totally different fucking world. You have a totally different world of culture, totally different world of movies, totally different world of music, totally different world of automobile design. You have a totally different world that I believe is inspired by psychedelic drugs. And when Nixon throws the water on the psychedelic movement in 1970 and makes them all Schedule 1, including things that aren't even psychoactive. By the way, missed a bunch of really good ones. Missed a bunch of really good ones that are still legal. One of them was salvia, which is fucking bananas, an insanely potent psychedelic drug that was completely legal. So if you look at it culturally, you see this shift. You see the movies get clunkier and goofy.
Yep.
You see the cars start to look like shit. You see the music starts to suck. It starts to be like real frivolous and very surface. It's cocaine music, right? It's not Led Zeppelin. Yeah. It's not psychedelic music. It's not the Doors.
Jimi Hendrix.
It's not Hendrix.
Yeah, there he is.
It's not Voodoo Child.
Yeah.
It's something completely divorced from feeling.
Yeah.
Right? And this is because of Richard Nixon.
Okay. So you're basically saying the importance of psychedelics in expanding the visions that we have to advance our culture in society
Yeah.
has been removed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree
And what
with you.
you talked about, the sympathetic use.
Yeah.
There's people compassionate use. There's people that are going to use things and they're going to abuse things. Just like you and I are having a glass of whiskey. Cheers, sir.
L'chaim.
Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code Rogan. That's code Rogan for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Yeah. But we are responsible
I'm
adults.
entitled to a refill?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Get in there, you fucking drunk.
I took my glutathione.
I know you did.
Do you know
you did.
I apologize. I finally went back and listened to our first podcast, 438, from August 8th, 2012.
Damn,
Wild.
that long ago?
Wild.
13 years ago?
Wild. It was wild. And the thing that stuck out was the glutathione. So I started this morning with my glutathione because I knew we were going to finish this bottle.
Oh, well, I'm not finishing that bottle. There's not a chance in hell. I have stuff to do.
Oh, we all do.
And I just worked out.
Did you take glutathione?
I haven't taken it yet.
Okay.
No, I
You want
take
some?
it every night. Sure. If you got some, go get me some. I take it every night. I
This
take
is
liposomal.
That's what that
it.
is.
There you go. Oh, this I have to suck on this, right? It tastes like
Yeah,
shit.
no.
Brain Rescue #3.
No.
Is this your company?
That's
Millennium.
Our,
It's
that's
Millennium.
our product. And that is our core product for fixing the guys with TBI. Yeah. How's the new flavor?
That's actually good.
Oh, thank you.
That actually doesn't taste bad at all. I was getting nervous
Oh.
when you're eating something out of a tube. You said like,
Depends on whose tube it is.
yes, isn't that true? It's not actually even a tube. I don't know why I said a tube. It's a packet, like a ketchup packet.
There you go.
But
it's not ketchup.
But it doesn't taste bad at all.
No.
But yeah, you turned me on to glutathione a decade plus.
13.
Yeah.
Wow. Long time ago.
Long time ago. But yeah, because of meeting you, I mean, I really ramped up all of my nutritional supplements, in a big way. Because back then, when I first met you, it had to be 15 years ago, right? Somewhere around then?
Yeah.
At least. When I first met you, I was just basically taking multivitamins. I wasn't really like strict about it. And then when you started doing blood work and explaining things to me, and and breaking down the nutritional deficiencies, like you need niacin, you need this, you need that, and I started taking all that stuff, and it makes a significant difference. It really does. And I talk to a lot of people that are skeptical about vitamins, and they talk to their doctors, unfortunately. And the reality is that you're very educated in this department, but many doctors have a cursory at best understanding of nutrition. Their specialty is their specialty. If they're a urologist or they're an orthopedic surgeon, that's their specialty. And most of them are very unhealthy, unfortunately.
Correct.
And they're under the illusion that you can get everything that you need to live optimally with a balanced diet. That's horseshit, people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you notice it eventually. Look, when I go on vacation, I've gone on vacation before, like 7-day vacations, and not taken vitamins with me.
Feel shitty.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like I feel different. Like at the end of 7 days, I'm like, Jesus, I need some fucking vitamins. So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Now when I go on vacation, I take vitamins with me. I'm like, what's the big deal? I pack underwear, pack my fucking vitamins, and I just make sure that I have everything that I need. And if I don't do that, I don't feel the same. And I think it's just the difference between being alive. Do you need it to be alive? No. But we're not talking about just alive. We're talking about optimization. And if you want to feel better, and everybody does, you should take vitamins. And you should take a bunch. You should take a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the times you're talking about our progression throughout time, back in the 90s, doctors were against vitamins, saying that it's expensive urine, it's expensive flushing down the toilet. You remember that?
My doctor told me that.
Yeah, and then what happened? And then all the science started coming out saying how we needed B12 because our nutrition was devoid, because the soil not being rotated, devoid in the nutrients to feed the plants to give us our
I thought
vitamins.
B12 was essentially from animals.
It is muscle.
Yeah.
From muscle, but talking about B complex, really, you know, you can get it in plants as well. But it's the trace elements as well, the minerals, and without having adequate amount in, you got to replenish it. And if
Right.
you don't replenish it, you lose important, pathways.
What about folks that are getting their food organically? They're getting like they go to a farmer's market, they get really good organic groceries.
Most of the organic people supplement the animals with quality supplementation food.
I mean, organic vegetables.
Organic vegetables. To be organic, you can't have pesticides on it. You can't have heavy metals. So it has to be nutritionally enriched with positive soil. They might
Compost.
put additives in
Ideally,
it.
you'd like just a natural process of
Right.
compost and manure and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and that's where
I use chicken shit on.
perfect.
in my-
Chicken shit's great,
It,
right?
it works. Yeah, I've got some great lemons and vegetables.
Do you know that people used to go to war over bat shit?
guano? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Like guano was so important for fertilizer.
For not only fertilizer, then it became the base foundation for lipstick and eyeliner. Yeah.
Bat shit was the foundation for
look up
lips.
guano.
Ew.
Guano.
You imagine kissing someone they got bat shit
They had
lipstick
guano
on?
wars.
Yeah, they really did have guano wars.
Guano
Isn't that
wars,
nuts?
bat shit,
Isn't
yeah.
that where batshit crazy came from?
Crazy as batshit.
I
I
think
don't know.
the term batshit
Bat-
crazy, I think that had something to do with how fervent people would fight in a war over batshit. Is it fervent? Yeah, whatever the word
fervent.
is.
Yeah, it's a good word. I like batshit.
There's a lot of words I don't use, but I read them,
Mm.
and then when it's time to use them, I'm like, that's the appropriate word. I'm like, how do you fucking say that?
You know,
I
have
think
a s-
that's where the term batshit crazy
Batshit.
came from.
it's
In one
blink,
bizarre
guano.
blink,
Yeah, I
guano ruled U.S. agriculture and the world. How fertilizer madness sparked into a turd war and turned guano into gold. Yeah, man. People needed that for fertilizer.
Yeah. Does it talk about the cosmetic use of guano? You didn't
Fountain
see?
of youth. The batshit's the fountain of youth?
It's what is it? The nitrogen composition of it is very good for growth of plants.
This is interesting. It says, prior to modern science and agriculture, the whys and hows of soil health largely were mysterious. How soil additives functioned or the knowledge of which minerals were needed and when was the realm of the blind. Beyond animal manure, farmers added soil amendments by the barrel, composts, human waste, fish, coal byproducts, chalk, or whatever unholy concoction was hawked by the latest charlatan to pull up in a wagon at town's edge and promise a yield bloom. Decade upon decade, the pitfalls of fertilization tormented growers until 1802, when German explorer and scientist Alexander von Humboldt strolled down a waterfront in Peru and felt his nose hairs curl in ammonia rebellion and an odor emanating from barge loads of yellow-brown caked guano. Von Humboldt was told the stinking bird droppings covered the nearby Chincha Islands in deep layers and were massively popular with Peruvian farmers. So this is interesting. So that's how they started doing this. So this is in the 1800s.
Can I read the next sentence?
Sure.
Okay. A little dabble do ya. Curiosity building the nostril burning, von Humboldt took home a scoop of guano to Europe and turned the spigot on agricultural fountain of youth, i.e. he sparked a fertilizer war.
You know what's the most interesting stuff about fertilizer? Is
It's shit to me.
Yeah, do you know that soil that they have in the Amazon that was created by man?
No.
Yeah, it's called Terra Preta, and Graham Hancock told me about it. There's a very specific soil in the Amazon that they think people from thousands of years ago figured out how to make. And this is like some sort of a compost process, and it's a very dark soil called Terra Preta, and this dark soil that exists on the surface layer of a lot of the Amazon was put there by man. And not just put there by man, but created. Like they had a process that they have not replicated to this day. They don't know what it is or how they did it, but they're very aware that there was a process involved in making this stuff, and that it's not a natural process of this stuff forming. At least that's what he said.
That's what he said.
But let me see. Show him some Terra Preta. It's pretty fascinating.
So it's a dark earth. Yeah.
It's very interesting because you see it and you're like, this is that's what it looks like. So you see the Terra Preta is on the surface, and then you go below it, and you just get like regular dirt. But this Terra Preta made everything very, very rich, and it grew so much plants. It's just like, do you know that the Amazon is mostly human-planted plants that grew out of control? Yeah,
Who planted it?
The original settlers of the Amazon. This is the theory, right? So they know now that the Amazon was heavily populated. They didn't used to think that. They used to think there was just this crazy wild jungle and there's indigenous populations that live inside of it. Well, at one point in time, there were cities. So there's grids. They found indications of, some sort of transportation of water. They had, it looked like streets. They had grids that indicate there were structures there all throughout from the use of LiDAR.
Oh, sure.
So they
satellite.
fly. Yeah. So they, well, it's from actually drones.
Oh.
So they fly over with drones and they scan the area. They probably could use satellites too, but they use drones. They scan the area, and even airplanes. They scan the area, and then they get these images that show these geometric patterns that exist below. And so they've unearthed a lot of these, and so now they think there were millions of people living in the Amazon, and that what probably happened was Europeans came over and gave them all smallpox.
Yeah, that's the theory.
Just like
that's
they did
what
with
killed everybody.
90% of Native Americans.
Yeah.
But what was done there was done in a place where they had made this environment with Terra Preta, and just because of the lush rainforest, it's like it rains constantly and vegetation grows so well that as soon as they were gone, within a couple hundred years, everything's consumed by the jungle. And then you lead thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the future, there's nothing left. And that's what they think they're looking at when they're looking at these large sections of the Amazon that have these patterns and structures that indicate civilization.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I start my mornings looking at archaeology.
You do?
I look at archaeology, but the archaeology that I look at in LiDAR is in Europe. Because, I collect ancient coins from Europe, from Italy and Germany and so forth, and Spain. And I've seen the photos where they go over and they see the foundation, as you said, in the structures that are man-made structures.
Yeah.
So it's neat stuff.
It just makes you wonder, how many of those exist out there, in the Mexican jungles and in the Guatemalan jungles, and that we don't even know about?
Toltecs, Aztecs, and Mayan. Yeah.
There's probably a ton of them back there. There's probably a bunch of stuff because the Amazon is so huge, and most of it is not explored. Most of it is, there's a bunch of different uncontacted tribes that live in there.
Right.
In fact, my friend Paul Rosalie, do you know who Paul Rosalie is?
No. Is he the one, the archaeology?
No. He's essentially working to save the rainforest, and what he does is he goes down there and he hires these people that were loggers to have a new job, and the new job is to protect the forest instead. And they've saved like shit. I don't know what the number is, but an incredible large number of acres they've saved this way. And they continue to do this, and they're trying to work with these people and try to stop them from just destroying the Amazon.
I think Sting donated a large amount of money to the Brazilian Amazon, and a lot of entertainers who have donated a lot of money to protect it.
So my friend Paul, he runs into uncontacted tribes all the time.
Really?
Many times.
Love to go there.
He sent me a video the other day that I can't share. But it's crazy. There's these uncontacted tribes, these naked people in the jungle in 2025.
Yeah.
It's really wild.
Yeah, they live in isolation.
Yeah. But, isolation from what? From us
From
assholes?
us. From us.
Yeah. But they lived the way people lived, 100,000 years ago. And I would... God, if I could be a fly on the wall. Can you imagine the documentary? If we get really good at drones to the point where you can have a bunch of drones that really do look like insects and fly them in there and film these folks.
Yeah.
And just without them being... But the problem then, people would want to go visit them. and then
So
they
you have
fuck
to-
everything up.
Yeah, you have to keep it hidden, like your video you were talking about, because
That's the reason why he doesn't
Yeah.
want the video to get out.
Understood.
He doesn't want people to know that there's these
Beautiful.
people out
Yeah.
there, and there's a lot of them. He said, well, one of his friends was killed. One of his friends was murdered by these people.
with the darts. With
No, they got
Karari,
him with arrows.
with Karari on it.
They could do
Poison,
that,
yeah.
but they shot him with bows and arrows. They just fucking killed him. And this was a guy that was like giving them stuff too. It's like he was bringing over rafts of food, and they're like, you know what,
We don't
today,
need it.
fuck you.
Yeah.
We killed a bunch of fish today. We don't, we don't need your bananas.
Have you seen them where the Indians living in the Amazons, they're shooting down the monkeys for food?
Oh yeah, they love monkeys.
They don't need anything. They've already established a culture of hunting, harvesting, and building their homes or building their.
You know what I
towns.
found out recently? The term Indian is not because Columbus thought that he was in India.
India. Yeah.
I'd been told that in fucking high school.
So what is it?
It's the children of God. It's what is the original term of Indios? There's like I forget the term. But it's not about India. It's just they called them Indians because they were the people that were living here in this place that they had named.
The indigenous.
But as like everybody thinks like America, like you think of Native Americans, that we used to call them Indians because they thought we landed in
India.
They thought Columbus landed in India, or he thought he landed in India.
Did he really?
It says though.
What's that?
What's that?
It says that the Portuguese word Indios, but because Columbus was Portuguese.
Right, but what is there's a term though. There's a term like the people of God. The Portuguese word Indios.
That's what the AI said.
Yeah, but there's another term. There's something that has to do with Indios. See, AI,
Portuguese, Indios.
AI is wrong about stuff sometime. Where did the term?
That's what I just typed in the word.
Right.
origin.
Just type in why are Native Americans called Indians? No, that's not going to get you there
Origin
either.
of Indian.
What was the
origin of the word Indian?
Right. So I was listening to this guy talk about this in a lecture. I wish I saved it. I absorb too much information and don't follow up through on another.
I'll go with our Reddit post. maybe.
Here's this one. What does it say? Always in the impression that we use the term Indian because Europeans were mistaken that they landed in India. However, this HuffPost article explains that it wasn't possible that we use the term Hindustan for India. That's what it is. And that Europeans used the term Indio earlier on, which had morphed into Indian. That's right. It was Indio. So click on the HuffPost article, the name Indian and political correctness.
From 2007.
Right. Well, it was a lecture this guy was giving.
Oh, whoever wrote this could be the guy that gave the lecture.
Could
Sometimes
be.
that happens.
Right. Could be.
Diago.
What is he saying? What's his term? Because there was something that had to do. That's right. Los niños indios.
Los niños.
Okay, we called them Los niños. Spelling may be wrong. The children of God. The description by the Padre means something like the children of God. After many years of use, the word indios emerged, and to this day, the indigenous people of South and Central America are called indios. So this is what this guy was saying. So it said, stop, scroll back, go back. So it said here, I'm a firm believer that most historians are wrong when they credit Christopher Columbus for coining the word Indian because he thought he was landing his ships in India. By 1492, there was no country known as India. Instead, that country was called Hindustan. I think that it's closer to the truth that Spanish padre that sailed with Columbus was so impressed by the innocence of the natives he observed that he called them Los Niños Indios, meaning the spelling may be wrong in the Spanish words, but the description by the padre means something like the children of God. After many years of usage, the word Indios emerged, and to this day, the indigenous people of South and Central America are called Indios. I'm told that as the word wound its way north, it evolved into Indian. Of course, some will say that there was a place in the East Indies in 1492, and Columbus may have thought he was headed for that region. So how and when did the effort to politicize the name start? I suspect some of it started when Native Americans enrolled in some of the white colleges. I think they found the word Indian offensive and set about to remake it. They found that the word Indian was often used in a derogatory fashion, such as drunken Indian or rotten Indian. Perhaps the white people would have found it more difficult to say drunken Native American.
Yeah, those white people.
Yeah, those dirty white people.
Absolutely.
They're a problem. And finally, when some Indian journalists made it to the newsrooms of large and prestigious mainstream newspapers, they reacted to the word Indian as they did when they were in college. They went to their editors and tried to impress upon them the paper should no longer use the word Indian, but instead switch to Native American or Native. Interesting. Now, the problem even with Native American is Native for how long? So, like, if you believe the Bering land mass theory, that they came across that way, that in a lot of Native Americans, and this was actually tested because of Mormons. So there was a wealthy Mormon who spent a bunch of money on DNA testing for Native Americans because he was sure that it was going to show that they were from the lost tribe of Israel, because he believed that, the Mormon teaching is that, like, the Indians and Native Americans are lost tribes of Israel. But then he found out when they did the DNA testing, no, they're from Siberia. Like, a lot of them are from Siberia. So that would make sense. They crossed the Bering Land Bridge, their ancestors did, and they wound up in North America.
Well, my people came from Kamenets-Podolsk in Russia.
Well, that's connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was from there, from Siberia.
Yeah, we bought Alaska for like $50.
Yeah.
That was
cheap.
like the deal of a lifetime. They
deal
talk
of the
about
century.
Manhattan might be the better deal. Like, financially, it's worth a lot more.
Yeah.
But goddamn, Alaska's bigger than Texas. Alaska's huge.
Yeah. And you've gone there hunting, right?
Oh yeah, I've gone there a few times. It's an incredible place. Alaska's incredible. It's really wild. Like, that's the last real frontier. If you want to get away, move to a small town in Alaska, and go live next to Sarah Palin.
I can see Russia from there, so I should become Secretary of State.
Remember when she said that? She could see Russia, but you can't even see. You can't even see the rest of Alaska. Alaska's huge. What are you saying?
Yeah, I loved it there.
It's gorgeous.
The salmon fishing.
I like the people. Yeah. The people are just different, man. They're just rugged people. They're more reliable. They're built better. Yeah. Like, you have to, like, you know how certain gene expressions are turned on and off due to stress, and imagine their genes. They're dealing with fucking grizzly bears and moose and shit. I'm sure you've seen this video of this guy goes outside of his house in the morning and two gigantic moose are duking it out in his driveway.
Head to head.
But bouncing off cars and shit. This guy's like, whoa! And he lives in a neighborhood. It's like, this guy isn't in the woods somewhere, like, on his own. He's in a fucking neighborhood. These moose are duking it out.
Yeah, I love that. In my neighborhood, the old neighborhood in Chatsworth, we had brown bears coming in.
No, you didn't. You had black bears. They had black bears.
Brown bear of California.
No.
What do you mean, no?
No. Brown bears have been extinct in California since the 1800s. The
they
last
look
guy
brown
to die,
and they're black?
Yes. The last guy to die from bear attacks from a brown bear was Stephen Levesque, and he died in what's now Levesque, California. They named the town after him. Yep. And it's right outside of Tejon Ranch.
I'll have to send you the picture.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's called a color phase bear. So it's a different bear. Okay. So there's a brown bear, which is a grizzly bear, and the Kodiak bear, and those bears. These are enormous, but they're all the same bear. The difference between a grizzly bear and a brown bear is just mostly what they eat. So the brown bears in, like, Alaska have so much salmon that they have immense amounts of protein, and they're the largest of all the brown bears. They're fucking huge. They're much, 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 much bigger than a black bear.
Yeah, we had parks and rangers come to our house because one of our refrigerators failed. So we had all this great beef in there, so I had to throw it out.
Oh, and the bears found it.
The next day, the bears found it. It was in a canister, and they came there. So I took videos of these, what I thought were brown bears coming in. So you're saying they're not? What's the?
No, they're brown color phase. So brown bears can be, black bears. Black bears can be brown. Most of them are black. Some of them are even blonde. Yeah. There's blonde color phase bears that they find up in Alberta, but they're black bears. So a black bear is less aggressive than a grizzly bear. Okay. A grizzly bear is a brown bear, and they were killing so many people in California that they wiped them out. That's what happened.
Well, this one jumped over a 6-foot fence. But before it jumped over the 6-foot fence, it ended up eating chicken and filet mignon and
Probably had a good old time.
ribeye and everything. The only thing it didn't eat was the garlic naan.
Well, tell you what, that bear's going to be back.
It came back 3 times.
Yeah.
On the 3rd time, Parks and Recreation came by with a dart gun to try and put it down so that they can transport it to someplace else.
Did they get it?
No.
No.
It jumped over the fence.
Yeah.
I've never seen a bear jump 6 feet.
Oh, they can move,
It
man.
was 250 pounds at least, is what they said.
Oh, they can move. They move very, very, very fast.
It was unbelievable.
You'd be amazed at how fast they can move. Like when they're chasing after another bear or if something's happening, they move very fast.
And then it jumped into our swimming pool. It was just,
Yeah, I had
swimming.
but in Pasadena they have a lot of those. A lot of them.
In Pasadena?
There's a funny video of this guy in Pasadena. He's walking down a street and he turns into an alley and he's just staring at his phone. And he's walking with his phone, and this guy gets within like 30 feet of a fucking bear. Wow! And he just like freaked. See if you can find it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I was like 10 feet away.
In
from this
Pasadena,
thing.
like in full-on Pasadena, not like the outskirts and the bush.
Right.
No, like actual city street in Pasadena, black bear.
Yeah, so what do you do when it's looking you face to face?
Well, you usually make a noise and try to startle it and frighten it and get the fuck out of
yell
there.
at
Like,
it.
hey, bear. You say, hey, bear. That's what people do. They say, hey, bear.
Okay.
The thing is, like, bears that have been accustomed to people, so that right there is a black bear.
Okay.
That is not a brown bear.
The one that I saw, and I think
looks
I
like
might
a
have
brown
it
bear,
I
right?
might have it on my cell phone, but
Yeah.
it was lighter than that.
Yeah, like I said, they get even
great.
blonde. So
Blonde.
that's a brown black. That's a color phase black bear.
It's
So let's-
intimidating.
Yeah, well, let's see the difference though. Pull up grizzly bear. So a grizzly bear is a completely different motherfucker.
Yeah. So on the state flag of California,
That's a grizzly bear.
That's a grizzly bear.
Yes, that is
Okay.
the brown bear that is no longer. Look at the size of those motherfuckers. See, that's
look
a
at the
different
canines.
thing.
Wow.
See the difference in the size? So that's a black bear, and that's
Yeah,
a grizzly
that's a
bear.
grizzly.
Grizzlies are much bigger, much more aggressive, much more dangerous. But interestingly enough, black bears turn out to be more predatory towards humans. So when a black bear attacks people, usually it's trying to eat them. Whereas when a grizzly attacks people, generally, like a large percentage of the attacks are, a large percentage of the attacks are people accidentally stumbling upon a mother and their cubs. That's the worst case scenario.
Because it's protective.
You get near a mama bear. That's so terrifying. Because they just try to eliminate the threat immediately, and they just go after you and fuck you up. They don't look at you and go, "What are you doing? What's this about?" They have to protect their cubs, and there's so much cannibalism in the bear world.
They eat their babes?
Oh
Their offspring.
yeah. Male grizzlies eat cubs, and they hunt cubs. And so there's so much cannibalism of cubs from male grizzlies that the females are always on edge. Because everywhere they go, their fear is that they run into a male who's going to eat their cubs. Grizzlies are fucking ruthless.
Wow.
These assholes that think they want to bring grizzlies back to California.
Right.
This is like a movement now to bring grizzlies back. Because just like they brought wolves back to Colorado, these people are retarded. And they've never spent a second in the woods. They don't know what the fuck they're dealing with. They don't know what you're bringing back and what the consequences are going to be of those things. And look, there's places they exist, and they're great. It's awesome. Go to Montana, you can see them.
Right.
Go to Wyoming, you can see them.
Yeah,
They're
and-
starting to make their way into Colorado. A friend of mine saw one in the San Juan Mountains. You got video footage of it.
Yeah. I know you go with your archery hunting. Mm-hmm. There's no hunting of bears?
There's a lot of
There
hunting
is.
of bears,
In
not in
which
the lower
states?
48. So they're trying to
in
change
Alaska.
that. They're trying to change that in Montana because they have so many instances, and and attacks. And a woman was killed a couple years ago. She was dragged out of her tent. It's scary shit, man. And I'm not advocating for the eradication of grizzlies. I'm just saying that with our modern society, when they haven't existed in an ecosystem, to reintroduce that to the ecosystem, you're going to cause chaos. You're going to cause havoc. And if you want healthy breeding populations of them, good luck. Good luck, because now everything changes. All your livestock changes. Your dogs change. Your dogs are going to get eaten. Anything you have a dog chained up in the backyard, that's meat on a stick. Yeah, that's
Meat
what
on
that
a
is.
chain.
Yeah, that's over. They're gonna
Wow.
they're going to do that. They're going to target your garbage. You're not going to be able to get rid of them. They're going to keep coming back. They're dangerous animals, and they're beautiful and amazing and an important part of the ecosystems that they exist in currently, like Montana and Wyoming, where there's elk populations and a lot of food for them.
Yeah,
and Alaska.
I personally can't see for myself going out hunting for bears or elks or moose, and I know you do that, but they're such incredible animals. Mm-hmm. They're just incredible animals.
They are.
Yeah, I just
But
can't see
if you
putting
don't,
them down.
the way they die without me is way worse. If I get them, I'm going to get them with an arrow, and they're going to be dead in seconds.
Yeah.
If they get attacked by a bear or a mountain
Takes
lion,
time.
it's fucking brutal. Yeah. It's brutal. And the worst, I mean, they might just freeze to death. That's how most of them go.
I know.
I shot an elk a couple of years ago that was 11 years old, and he had almost no teeth left. His teeth were ground down because, they don't live long, and part of it is because they can't grind food after a certain age.
Yeah, because no teeth.
No teeth.
Yeah.
Because their teeth they're just digging into the ground and pulling out shrubs and grasses, and they're constantly mashing and smashing. And over the period of 11 years, his teeth had worn down to the roots.
Yeah. So you've gone after bears?
I've hunted bears before.
You've hunted
I've
bears?
eaten bears before.
And you've eaten it?
Yeah.
What's the meat like?
It's like beef. It's like a pig fucked a cow. That's what it's like. It's like a weird kind of beef. Or maybe a deer fucked a cow. It's good though. It's good, but it's dependent upon the diet of the animal. So like the people that hunt grizzly bears and they've eaten grizzly bears or brown bears, they say they taste so fishy, it's almost intolerable. Yeah. But you could turn them into sausage. You could with the right spices and stuff. Like bear sausage is great, but you also have to be careful because of trichinosis. So you have to make sure you cook it to 160 plus degrees.
Yeah.
To kill
parasites.
off the trichinosis. Because I know several people that got trichinosis from bear meat.
Heart?
Well, it's just parasites in your muscles.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have too many adverse effects. It means very painful and brutal for the beginning exposure, the beginning infection. But then the thing is, like, if you're a cannibal and you eat that dude and you don't cook him right, you're going to get it from him, which is really crazy. And
one of
that's
the
how they
reasons
pass it
why I
on.
don't eat pig that you got after me in the last time we were here. Pig has a lot of parasites.
Sure.
And a lot of them aren't cooked to the level to kill the parasites, cysticercosis and so forth.
And trichinosis. Yeah, especially wild pigs. Yeah. You know what the number one source of trichinosis is for people in America?
No.
Black bears. Isn't that crazy? Think about how few people eat black bears.
Yeah.
But
it's
yet
the
it's the number
cause.
one source of trichinosis in America for people that test positive for it.
So it's through contamination?
From food, from eating them.
From eating them.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that hunt black bears.
Wow.
Yeah. Want to really get blown away?
Yeah.
What the state has the largest population per capita of black bears in the country?
Wyoming? Montana?
New Jersey.
No way.
Yep. New Jersey.
New Jersey.
New Jersey has an infestation of black bears. Wow. New Jersey, we played this video 100 times, but there's these giant bears that are duking it out in a beautiful suburb of Far Rockaway, New Jersey. So there's like nice, normal, not like the woods.
Yeah.
Not like, fucking.
Residential area.
Yeah, not the mountains.
Yeah.
Residential area. They knock over this mailbox and they're duking it out in the street. Big fucking bears. Big bears. A guy recently shot the state record black bear in New Jersey, and it was 800 pounds. Yeah, you should see it. Pull that video up, the photo rather up of this guy's bear. So I'm pretty sure that was archery as well. They banned bear hunting in New Jersey when the new governor came into place. That lasted for about a year. And then the human interactions with bears were so frequent and so that they restarted the bear hunting program. Yeah. It's an important tool. Look at the size of that bear. Look at the fucking
770.
size. 770 dressed.
Wow.
That's 770 after they gutted it. And they added another 800 pounds for its intestines and organs. Another 100 pounds, rather. So it was, they think, so it's field dressed, the bear, before it was officially weighed in at 770. So it's probably quite a bit heavier than that. Pretty nuts.
Very Crazy.
So if you see, there's other pictures of it where you really get a better size of it. See if you can find some other pictures of it, because
That is huge.
yeah, some other pictures of have it laid out, and they're you could see what it looks like. It's a fucking giant bear, but it's because they have so much food there, and a lot of these bears exist. Look at the size of that thing. A lot of these bears exist around humans.
And you've gone after a black bear?
Not that big.
Not that.
The black bears that I've shot are like 200 pounds, 250
babies.
pounds. Well, they didn't look like babies.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, you eat them, man. And it's an important part of conservation, because if you don't control their populations, no one does. This is the thing about bears. They are the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
So if you're not controlling them, no one does. And so what they do is they eat each other.
Yeah.
That's the only control of bears, is the infanticide of the cubs by the males.
So
And the females, too, by the way.
Yeah.
You want to hear a crazy thing? My friend Jonathan, he watched this bear and this female bear. So the male bear came around. The female bear is trying to fight him off, and she eventually can't. And the male bear gets a hold of one of her cubs and kills it. And she chases him off of her dead cub.
Right.
Then she eats her cub.
Whoa.
Whoa. That's the real world.
Whoa.
That's the real world. She ate her cub right in front of him. And he came back to camp, and he was like, fuck.
Yeah. So that's the balance that has to be struck. In, where was it, Montana, where they had open season for elk or for moose?
No.
Was it moose?
No, there's no open season. There's no, like...
Which state was
Well,
it where they
but
had
open season
where
means...
you didn't need a permit?
Right.
They had to call the...
There's no way. They would never do that with elk. Elk is a very
So it's
valuable...
moose.
No. They
What
would never
was
do
it?
that with moose either. They would never do that with... They wouldn't... They do it in some communities with white-tailed deer. And the reason why they do it is because they're completely overpopulated. And oddly enough,
Right.
this happens a lot in the suburbs. Like, there's places in the suburbs... Yeah, where there's like people who bow hunt in the suburbs, because like, look, if you're bow hunting, your arrow doesn't go more than 100 yards, right? It's not like you have to worry about you shoot and someone a mile away gets hit by a bullet,
Right.
if you miss.
Yeah.
Your arrow drops, it
Right.
arcs, right? Archery, it arcs.
Sure.
So it drops down to the ground. It only goes so far, and so it's safer if you have competent hunters who are skilled to hunt in the suburbs. And most of these suburbs have wooded areas, and they're infested with deer. So I think it was Pennsylvania. There's states that were bringing in bow hunters. In New York, and in all their wisdom, these fucking dorks, in the area around the Hamptons, they have this issue, but the people are so fucking retarded
Long Island.
that, well, it's the Hamptons, because they're rich.
Yeah.
It's like if you had
East
regular Long
Hampton.
Island, Long Island would probably say, yeah, we should hunt them because they're food.
I'm from Queens.
Yeah, there you go. So
Explains it.
they decided they were going to just try to sterilize the deer and give them birth control. They came up with all these wacky concepts, but they
wasn't
didn't
there-
want to bring in bow hunters.
But wasn't there in the last, 5 years, there was an overpopulation of moose or deer
Never.
or elk?
There's never been
on
an
this side?
No. There's been times where they had seasons in winter for elk in Montana, and the reason it was a complete depopulation effort. So they had this is before the reintroduction of wolves, though. So the reintroduction of wolves, which is in the 1990s, has significantly impacted the elk population, and now it's actually more difficult to get a tag. But back then, they would have certain seasons that would have in the winter. So you'd be able to get these elk that were out there in the snow, moving very slowly in the deep snow, and you could just kind of pick them off. And it was basically just a meat hunt, and it was a lot. They killed a lot of cows that way, cow elk, and it was just a way for people to get meat, and also they were trying to put a dent on the population because it wasn't sustainable. So they would have an elk herd of, thousands of elk, where it really should have been like 800 elk with the sustainability of the area.
Right.
And the bear couldn't keep up. They couldn't eat enough of them. The mountain lions couldn't eat enough of them. And then they brought in the wolves. And the wolves were way better than everybody else because they hunt together. And they started really chipping away at them. And now they've knocked the elk population down. I think it's in the neighborhood, or they dropped it by 40% plus.
And what was the need for reducing the elk population?
Well, if you don't have a balanced ecosystem, right? If you don't have enough predators,
Right.
and you have a large animal like an elk, like a bull elk is an 800-pound animal, and a cow elk, a mature cow elk, is north of 300 pounds, 400 pounds. So this is a lot of food, and they can decimate vegetation. And there was a documentary that's kind of like poo-pooed by people, but interesting nonetheless. It's how wolves changed rivers, and it's all about how the Yellowstone ecosystem changed because of the introduction of wolves, and more songbirds came in because there was more vegetation. Because the introduction of wolves, they killed off a lot of the elk. The elk had been just like maybe overbalanced in the fact that like overrepresented. They were eating too much vegetation. Yeah. So it's all interesting, but what you really want is things to happen naturally, and then when there's a problem, you know, really the best way to handle the problem if there's like an overabundance of these animals is to bring in hunters. The other solution would be to bring in predators. The problem with bringing in predators is if you have a predator like wolves that has been forever maligned because they go after livestock and they do target ranchers. Like there was an article I read today actually about these ranchers that were kind of optimistic about wolves being introduced into Colorado, and now they vehemently oppose it because they've seen the impact. And one of the reasons why they saw the impact is because the governor of Colorado, in all his fucking infinite wisdom, he had a mandate to get these wolves introduced during a certain amount of time, and they didn't have the wolves, so they got wolves from Oregon that they had captured while they were preying on livestock. So these wolves were already accustomed to preying on livestock, and those are the wolves they reintroduced into Colorado. They reintroduced wolves that had already been like naturalized to killing livestock. And so what they start doing? They started finding livestock and killing them again. Duh. But that's the thing. Yeah. It's like you're fucking around with nature and you don't know how this calculation is going to end. Yeah. A good example is Australia. Australia is a fucking mess because they kept bringing in animals, and then they'd bring in animals to kill the animals, and then they'd have an overpopulation of certain animals, so they bring in cats, and now they have an overpopulation of feral cats, to the point where they hunt feral cats. Like if you look at an Australian bow hunting journal, you know, they have bow hunting magazines. My buddy Adam Greentree, shout out to Adam Greentree. My buddy Adam gave me a magazine from Australia, bow hunting. I'm like, bro, what the fuck is this? It's all cats. These guys are holding up house cats because they kill feral cats whenever they can. Because feral cats have decimated ground nesting birds, and they've destroyed a shit ton of native animals that were in that area. Because they brought them in to kill some other animal that they brought in. It's like, you can't fuck around with nature like that. No. You don't know what the consequences are. And when you do ballot box biology, which is essentially what this stuff is. So the reintroduction of wolves is something people voted on. The people that voted on it are living in fucking Denver, all right? They don't encounter wolves. They don't know what they're doing. It's like the same thing happened in Vancouver. So in British Columbia, they outlawed grizzly bear hunting. Why'd they do that? Because, man, why would you kill it? They call it trophy hunting. But it's important to manage the predators. And the people that knew this were the people that lived in the rural areas that were vehemently opposed to this ban. And then what happens? Well, you get ballot box biology. You get people that have no experience with bears, don't encounter bears, don't have to worry about bears. And they say, yeah, let's not ban them anymore. Now you got bears breaking into people's houses, and there's much more of them than ever before. And people are freaked out. Yeah, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I freaked out when the bear came to the house.
Yeah, you should.
It was like, whoa.
You should.
Then seeing this fucking bear, 250 pounds, swimming in my swimming pool, you know, going back and forth, and then the Department of Parks and Rangers came in to try and deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said, stop feeding it. I'm not feeding it. I put the fucking, beef into the garbage can because it's no longer, it wasn't frozen. And the bear kept on, don't put it there. Where should I put it? Where do you put the meat?
Put it at your asshole neighbor's house. You have some guy that's annoying. Go use his garbage in the middle of the night.
I've got a bad neighbor. I'm going to have to put it into there.
Yeah, you should dress up, though. Dress up like a Ku Klux Klan member or something like that,
no,
so they don't know what you look like.
Dress up as a bear to go into a Rolls Royce to destroy the Rolls Royce.
Oh, there you go.
You remember that one?
No, what was that?
You didn't see that? This.
Oh, that's right. A guy was wearing a bear suit.
And
did
and
insurance fraud.
Insurance fraud. They brought in a bear expert and said, that bear would not have gone into the Rolls Royce and done those scrape marks on it.
So this guy was trying to get rid of his car?
He was trying to get insurance money.
Oh, what a moron. What a silly bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned right now so much more about bears. Mm-hmm. Incredible.
Yeah, they're a wild animal.
Yeah.
I mean, not wild, just wild, but fascinating.
I love them. You know,
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt, and when he did his bear hunting,
Mm-hmm.
loved it. The bears are such.
You know what the scariest
incredible
bear to
animals.
run across is? Take a guess.
No.
Polar bear.
Oh, white bear. Yeah.
You know why?
No.
Because they don't eat anything but meat.
So
At least
they're
grizzly
after you.
bears. If you find a grizzly bear that's in a blueberry field,
They'll
you
eat
probably don't even have
blueberries?
to worry about them.
They
They're
eat
gonna
blueberries?
be. Oh yeah, they'll be gorging on blue. But black bears and grizzly bears are omnivorous, so they eat vegetation and they also eat meat.
Meat. Yeah.
Polar bears are just carnivores.
Wow.
And they're hyper aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah, they just eat seals and occasionally people, but they they hunt people. Yeah.
No way.
Oh yeah, they'll go after you. They smell you from a distance to hunt you.
Bad body odor or something.
Just you smell.
Yeah.
Everybody smells.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be amazed at how much a bear can smell. There was a video where my friend was in, I forget what part, I think they were in Montana, maybe Idaho, and a bear was 700 yards away plus, and the wind hit the back of his neck, and the bear started running. And he's like, did that fucking bear wind us? Like, the bear caught their smell from 700 yards away.
And went after him.
No, the other way. It was a black
It
bear.
ran away.
Black bears run
Smart.
away. Yeah.
Absolutely. Human, run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any area where the bears get hunted, they run away.
Sure.
You know, like in Alaska, if they smell you, generally they run away because people hunt bears in Alaska. They don't have any experience with getting hunted. Black bears do, but grizzly bears don't in the lower 48. In the lower 48, it's not legal to hunt them yet. But they're trying to change
Grizzlies.
that. Grizzlies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Great new information for me.
It's important to know.
Yeah. In case
It's
I
a
go
wild world out there.
up. Absolutely.
It's a wild world. And if you live in the city and you think it's cute, let's go for a hike. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you meet a fucking mountain lion.
Yeah. Well, we have mountain lions where
Oh, fuck
the
yeah, you
houses,
do.
yeah, mountain
fuck yeah, you
lions,
do. Bobcats.
deer, bobcats, a lot of.
You'd have a lot more deer if it wasn't for the mountain lions. And that's what the wildlife lovers want. They want nature to balance itself out. The
Yeah.
problem is they eat your cats and dogs too. A lot of them. In
Yeah.
San Francisco, there was like 50% of the problem cats that they caught. They found out their diet was pets.
Yeah.
50% of their diet was pets.
I lost 2 cats.
Yeah.
And they were-
Coyotes mostly, right?
Yeah, the coyotes
Yeah.
were the ones. They were indoor cats, and every now and then they would go out.
Right.
And gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Owls get them too.
Do they really?
Oh,
they
yeah.
they swoop in and pick them up and
Yeah.
take them away.
A
Yeah.
buddy of mine has a friend who works in like tree service, and they found a nest, an owl nest, and it was filled with cat collars. Yeah, like 10 cat collars in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got owls where we are. We're in Santa Susana Pass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a lot
so,
of owls
you
up
know,
there.
A lot of owls.
Do you know owls are stupid?
No.
Yeah, they're dumb. You know that whole
In
thing
what
of
sense?
wise old owl? They're one of the dumbest birds. They don't learn things. They're stupid. I talked to a lady who's a falconer, and she trains birds, and she has an owl, and she's like, it's the dumbest bird I have. She's like, this idea that owls are wise. She was like, they're the second dumbest bird.
Who's number one?
I forget.
Ostrich?
See if you can find it. It's in the ostrich family.
Yeah.
It's another animal that's in the ostrich family.
what's that called?
Ostriches might be dumber
Yeah.
than owls.
It's 'cause
They're
they
really
have
dumb.
Always got their head in the sand.
Well, they're also big.
Yeah.
They're big. They don't fuck.
What's
with
the other?
and they can kill you. They can
what's-
kick you to death.
What's the other breed that's? It's not ostrich, but it's in the same family.
Cassowary?
It's
Cassowary? I think that's what
Is
it's
it
called.
cassowary?
That's the one that's dangerous. They kill people.
Yeah.
That's you ever seen that fucking weird bird?
No, haven't
Is
seen
that what it's in that? Am I saying it right?
Cassowary thing?
Cassowary. That's right.
Cassowary.
Yeah, they're freaky
I
looking,
haven't
man.
seen that,
They're
yeah.
freaky looking. Yeah, they're a big ass bird too, but they kill people. The people have died by being attacked by these birds.
And what? Pecks them on their face?
I think they claw them. I think they attack you with their claw. It might be their face too. Their face looks like a fucking hatchet.
Yeah. That's wow. Beautiful
Yeah.
bird.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
God, look at his eyes.
Wow.
The
I'm looking
coloration.
at you.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at the comb.
Google cassowary kills people.
And where are they found? Just in Australia?
I don't know where that one is. A massive flightless emu-like creature.
That's the word. Emu.
As the most dangerous bird in the world, owing to the fact that it can seriously injure or kill a human or a dog in an instant with its deadly claws. Yeah, it's the claws.
yeah.
They just rip you apart. So they go for your guts. You know, that's the same. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at their tips. Oh my God, they got fucking talons for claws. Jeez.
5-inch.
They can
you
eviscerate
go.
a human being with a single kick. Although there's no record of this happening. It wasn't because the people are dead. They can run 13 miles an hour.
Killed a 75-year-old man who was raising one.
In Florida.
He tripped and fell on it, and the bird attacked him.
Oh,
Tripped and
Jesus
fell.
Christ.
It succumbed to his itch.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that's a bird I'm not going to collect.
Yeah.
There's 1 million
What's the
deaths.
dumbest bird, Jamie?
So it's
Cassowary.
it said owls are smart when I googled are
Lies.
owls dumb or smart.
Lies.
Said they're almost as smart as a crow or a
That's
raven.
horseshit.
But I did see some stuff saying they're not that smart or their brains are different, but they have really good eyesight and stuff. So
Oh, yeah, they have
Says
killer
what?
eyesight.
No, owls are not dumb.
yeah, that's right.
Lies. Lies. I was talking to a lady.
And one lady told you they're not
Two
dumb.
ladies.
Okay,
Two different
fine.
falconers.
And if you have
Yeah.
3, it's a done deal.
Two different people, and now you like in the last year, I've hung out with 2 different falconers and their animals.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, one of them had an eagle.
Yeah.
She had a female bald eagle. It was amazing, dude. I caught it on my arm. You know, you put the glove on. You have to put a different glove for the eagle than the other animals because its talons are so powerful. Yeah. But having that thing land on your arm is crazy.
Yeah. The shoebill might be the dumbest bird,
Shoebill?
even though it makes that cool ass sound.
Oh yeah, they're cool. Have you ever seen that fucking thing? A shoebill?
Stupidest bird in the wild.
They make a sound that sounds like gunshots. Like they slap their jaws together and they stand like that. That's what it looks like. See how that thing's standing up? That thing's like 5 feet tall. You imagine a 5 foot tall bird with those evil eyes and that giant face. Look at his fucking mouth. Look at
Wow.
that beak. Get a video of
That's the dumbest bird?
That's what it says. I mean, there's multiple articles repeating
the
it.
dodo was a really dumb bird too,
Yeah,
right?
dodo. Yeah.
But can you do Google shoebill makes noise? Shoebill noise? Yeah. It's really cool. It sounds like a machine gun. Listen to
Bill
this.
clacking, so they kind of shake the bottom and the top of their beak or their bill backwards and forth at different speeds. and
Shut
it
the
kind of
fuck up,
tracks
dude. Shut
together.
this dude up.
And that's how you get this kind of...
Shut this dude up. How crazy is that?
That is
Now imagine,
AR-15
imagine that getting a hold of your face. Imagine that
or
fucking
any
massive beak.
appendage lower down.
It's a big animal too, man. They're big.
What's the height on it?
I think they're like 5 feet tall.
5. Fuck.
Isn't that nuts?
Wow.
And they look like they're from a different time. They look like they're like you went back at 3.5 to 5 feet tall. Yeah, they look like they're from dinosaur times.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, look at that thing. You ever heard of a terror bird?
No.
Terror birds used to exist like more than 1 million years ago, right?
I work in human, anatomy.
I know, but
human
you're a
science.
human. I
Yeah.
work in meat fighting.
Oh, yeah.
I work in
You
people
collect
beating the
it.
shit out of each
Yeah,
other.
and I want to complain.
About
I
what?
was expecting to find some elk sticks out in your front.
I've got some.
Yeah. First
You
time
don't
I
have
had
to
it was
complain.
yeah. Well,
You
no,
just
I'm not
asked.
complaining.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
but I asked and they said it's not available.
Jamie, Google terror bird. Like, yeah, that image with a human being.
Where is it?
Right there. So that is what they used to look like. Imagine that.
Whoa.
A 9 foot to 10 foot tall giant flightless bird. And they called them terror birds.
Terror, like TERROR.
Yeah, terror. Like,
Like
like you'd be terrified if you saw that fucking giant bird.
Yeah,
Look at that
fucking
thing.
scared shitless.
Killing
Damn.
horses and shit.
Terror bird.
Yeah. It was huge.
So where can we get one?
They don't exist anymore.
Oh, jeez.
When did they die off? Look at it. It looked like, woo.
That's a neat.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
Imagine seeing
neat.
that 10 feet tall.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I'll take 2, please.
Look at the size of it. That's what they used to look
Where is
like.
that? That's at.
Well, that's a recreation, obviously.
Yeah,
but
obviously.
I don't know where that is.
Said it was based off of a fossil in
Yeah.
Yeah. Fossil remnants.
What
yeah.
year did they go extinct?
55 billion years
I
ago.
think it was a couple million.
Yeah. 55 billion years ago.
It says right there, when did the terror bird go extinct? Cenozoic era? When's that?
What date was that?
Okay.
Was it January?
66 mil. Oh, a lot longer ago.
66.
So the current geological age of Earth. Oh, it's the current geological age, beginning 66 million years ago and continuing to the present. So when did the terror birds go extinct? Does it say? When did they go extinct?
How do you pronounce that word?
I think it says
Hold on. How do you pronounce that?
Forusrasitis? How would you say it? You're a doctor.
Terror bird. I would say a terror bird.
Oh, it's only thousands of years ago?
One of them survived into the late Pleistocene. So
Whoa.
maybe up to 63. I mean, they could have been driest,
Holy shit. One of
they
them
went out
survived up until 6,000 years ago? Between 96,000 and 6,000. I thought it was millions.
It's the late Pleistocene. Which
Wow.
100,000 years ago.
Oh, we're so lucky.
Yeah,
We're so
Neanderthal
lucky those aren't
male
around.
man ate it up, right?
No, I don't think Neanderthals were here. They were
No.
European. I think there's probably a bunch of assholes who want to bring those back too. They want to bring back the mammoth. That's probably next. Let's bring back the
they've been
terror.
working on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll probably just call it a different name. They won't call it a terror bird. They'll call it something cute.
Yeah.
The conservation bird. He's going to
Big
make
bird.
sure that all
They'll
the
call it Big Bird.
Big bird. Yeah,
Big
we're going to bring
bird.
back
Hey,
Big Bird.
Big Bird.
Just make him yellow so
Yeah.
people love him.
Hello, Big Bird. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
Natural world. So speaking of which, since we're talking about ridiculous shit, and you are a doctor, I wanted to bring this up to you because Jamie and I were exchanging text messages yesterday about these mummies that they found in Peru that have 3 fingers.
the aliens.
Yeah, well, they don't know what they are, but they have 3 fingers, and not 3 fingers because they cut the fingers off. They actually, their structure genetically has 3 fingers. And their cranial capacity, they have a large head, which a lot of times they think was due to, they would form their head and like press boards to make their head stretch out, which they definitely did in some tribes.
Chinese do
but
with
the
the
question
feet.
is, why were they doing that? And then were they doing it to replicate something else?
Yeah, that's it.
So the thing about these is that they had a cranial capacity that is larger than most human beings. And
That's
look at
alien.
It looks like a fucking alien.
That's correct.
But is that real? Here's the question. 3-fingered alien mummies. Click on that article and see where are they getting this info. I know it was in New York Post. So 3-fingered alien mummies found in Peru have fingerprints that do not appear to be human. So the fingerprints that it has, instead of spirals, I think they're lines. And go and scroll back to where you were. Look at that image. That's X-ray image of their fingers. So these are like real bones and
Phalanx,
digits.
yeah.
So this isn't just a statue that someone made.
Right.
This has real bone structure that is exact to like what a human being has with all those little tiny muscles in the mid-hand, right? I mean, that all looks normal but weird with the 3 fingers and 3 toes. And so if you scroll down, you'll see more images. So this is what it looked like when they found it. So the body is covered. Go back so I could read that, please. It says the body is covered with how do you say that?
Diatomaceous earth.
Diatomaceous earth, a type of white powder made from the sediment of fossilized algae found in the bodies of water. The only possible explanation for the unusually straight fingerprints could possibly have something to do with the way her skin was preserved, he said, noting that it's very odd. So the U.S. medical examiners traveled to Peru last April to study the bodies. With the lack of human fingerprints is puzzling. He said it would be extremely premature to make any statements about the mummy's origins. So they know for a fact that these things are biological and they're not created. Have they done any sort of DNA? Look at the picture of what it actually looks like. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That does look like an alien.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what people expect to see at their bed in the middle of the night.
Yeah. You said it looks like an alien.
Yeah.
It is an alien.
If it's real. It's so hard. And no disrespect to the Post, but people bullshit. Not those. Those I think have proven to be horseshit. But if you scroll back to where you were, that thing. Okay. I want to know what that is. Like, what is that? Because it's got 3 fingers and 3 toes, and it's got an alien face. It looks like a gray. It has a tiny slot for a mouth and tiny dots for a nose. It looks like the archetypal angel, or the archetypal alien, rather, that people see in like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And what was that other movie? The Whitley Strieber movie, Communion.
I didn't see that one.
That's a weird one because Whitley Strieber is also a fiction writer. And he wrote this book about his own personal experiences with aliens, which I want to believe him.
Yeah,
but
that's classical impression,
Yes.
face-wise, of an alien of a gray, as you said.
100%.
Yeah.
Even with the shape of the eye, like the eyes are kind of slanted, like not like a human's. Like they're at angles, just like they always show them with these kind of. They look, you know,
the
they look
big eyes, the almond
yeah,
eyes, the
we
large.
have to have an image of one of them around here somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, you probably have.
Got aliens all over this fucking place.
Yeah.
But that classic look is exactly what those mummies look like. So they have straight Go back.
Alien
What did you just
corpse.
wear?
3 figures.
Jesus Christ, all these pop-ups. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It says the humanoid three-fingered alien mummies have straight fingerprints that do not match those of humans, according to an attorney who reviewed one of the controversial specimens. Oh, an attorney said that.
You believe him?
I don't know.
That's what the rest of this came from, is because this guy didn't believe
Mm-hmm.
what everyone was saying, so he's like, we're going to go look.
So Joshua McDowell, a former Colorado prosecutor and current defense attorney, examined one of the tiny, strange bodies named Maria with 3 independent forensic medical examiners from the United States. Scroll. It said he and the experts were shocked to discover that the fingerprints in the ET-like corpses were in perfectly straight lines. They were not traditional human fingerprint patterns, he told the Daily Mail. But what did they do an analysis of the tissue? Like, did they
DNA.
find out that it's actually biological tissue? Can you scroll down further?
It doesn't say anything
Doesn't
like that.
say
That's
that?
why I was trying to go to different articles to find better
So I'm a
stuff.
forensic prosecutor. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've seen lots of fingerprints, and these were not classic fingerprints. Look how weird it is. Look at that image. That's so crazy looking.
Yeah.
And also, how did I just find out about this yesterday?
We
like-
talked about it before.
I know, but I never saw it look like this. What I saw were those other ones that I think have been proven, I might be wrong, but I think at least allegedly had been proven to not be real. And that the person who was exposing those little tiny ones that were like laying down straight, that guy had a history of doing some deceptive stuff, allegedly.
Yeah.
So
But you believe that they're there.
Do
I
I
mean,
believe?
you believe that the aliens are here.
I do not believe.
Do not believe. So
I don't
you're
disbelieve.
ambivalent as to the fact that I believe that they're here.
I wouldn't even
believe that
say
the
I'm
genetic-
ambivalent. I am open-minded.
Okay.
But
You won't say yes.
I'm logical.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of deception going on.
Okay.
I think there's also the possibility that what we're dealing with is not as simple as we like to think. Yeah, these things. So these things I've heard are bullshit. I don't might be wrong, but
I'm trying to find out.
well, might
so
that be
that guy-
misinformation?
He's
that
the journalist.
that journalist that unveiled the bodies, and the guy who exposed the bodies. The guy who exposed the bodies, I think, was the guy who came up with it.
I was trying to figure out how. So there's an issue of them being found in Peru and taken to Mexico.
Oh,
There's already that issue.
okay.
And then where they said they were found near Nazca in 2017. I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, who found them? And-
lines?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
was
like-
the thing about that alien-looking one with the 3 fingers that was even more interesting to me, because that's that area where there's these incredible patterns that are made on the ground that you can only see
Nazca
from
lines,
space.
yeah.
Or not space, the air.
Right.
You can only see looking down on them. So it's like, why
Where'd
would
they
anybody
come-
even make those things? And some of them look like the images look like animals and stuff.
Yeah, spiders.
Yeah,
and-
weird
yeah.
stuff. And some of them look like maybe even a person. Where'd it go? Mexican doctors have examined the 2 bodies that featured elongated heads and 3 fingers on each hand. Same thing, 3 fingers. They found no evidence of any assembly or manipulation of the skulls, but other scientists have panned the discovery as an elaborate stunt. Mausan, 70, who touted the purported extraterrestrials as the most important thing that has happened to humanity, has denied any wrongdoing. Scroll down. Look at that. How fucking weird.
Yeah. I believe that there are aliens.
Why do you believe that?
Why do I believe that?
Yeah.
Why would we be the only people on a planet when there are millions and billions of
Right.
planets out there? And we've reached a level of technology that allows us to send a ship to the moon, anticipation with Musk to go to, to Mars and so forth.
Right.
How about there are other people on other planets who have accelerated, who've been there millions of years longer than we have? Why isn't
Yeah.
it that they're able to come to us to see what we're doing? We're going out to other planets to see what, was on other planets.
remember reading
I
that.
believe that, there are other people out there.
According to the UFO aficionado, by the way, as soon as you say according to UFO aficionado,
Right.
I already start looking at you
You believe that?
side-eyed.
Yeah.
The analysis showed that the humanoids are not related to any known earthly species and that 1/3 of their DNA is unknown.
There you go.
Well, take it and map it. Let's make a new one.
Yeah, let's look at the
Get those
DNA
mastodon
relative
guys.
to ours.
Get those mastodon guys and introduce some simian biology into them and turn it into a new kind of alien.
Yeah, just do a 23andMe.
It says these specimens are not a part of our evolutionary history of Earth. The university has since distanced itself from Alzheimer, claiming its scientists took no part in the research and never came in contact with the full corpses. In no case do we make conclusions about the origin of these samples. The university's National Laboratory of Mass Spectrometry with Accelerator said in a statement. Okay. The presence of carbon-14 allegedly detected in the specimens proved the samples were related to brain and skin tissues from different mummies who died at different times. What does that mean?
Yeah.
From one individual? Is that saying from one individual? The presence of carbon-14 allegedly detected in the specimens proved that the samples were related to brain and skin tissue from different mummies who died at different times. So they're all different. They come from different times, and they're all different little mummies. So that's what they're saying. So what they're saying is that the carbon isotope dating is showing that. That's what it is, right? Is that what they're saying? Okay.
So how do you account for the fact that in Egypt and in the Mayan rooms and so forth?
Hold on. This is our buddy Ryan. U.S.
Ryan
Navy
Graves.
pilot Ryan Graves, who attended the hearing to share his personal experience with alleged UFO sightings, later slammed Mao San's presentation as a stunt. He said yesterday's demonstration was a huge step backwards for this issue. Graves wrote on X, formerly Twitter, "I am deeply disappointed by this unsubstantiated stunt." Well, he's a very legitimate guy, Ryan Graves is, and very intelligent. And if he's saying it's a stunt, now I'm super skeptical. He has a history of making controversial claims about other alien remains that have been widely discredited. Okay. In 2017, he participated in a TV documentary about other specimens recovered near Peru's Nazca Lines, which experts have said to have been concocted out of modified mummies.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're talking about that other thing when they're saying that.
This is older than the one we were looking at.
The one we're looking at, when did they find that one? When did they find that alien?
It said the same time. That's why I was trying to get into this, and the sources aren't great. It says they're all coming from the same area around the same time, but they all look different.
Yeah, that looks super different. That one looks more like the way something you'd find dead. Like the way it's like even the way its legs are rotted away. Like it doesn't look fake.
That one video we watched, you sent me, was getting more towards like they could have been found in a burial type site that other groups used similar things.
Where did they find this one, though? This is the one I'm interested in.
It doesn't say specifically.
But the fact that they did an X-ray and they show the actual fingers and toes, and that it looks just like real fingers and real toes with actual bones, that's crazy.
Cubiform bones, the phalanx, they're consistent with, looking at human hands.
Right, but it's consistent with a human hand that would have 3 fingers, right? It doesn't have, there's not missing digits.
So you say it's genetic abnormalities, so they only have 3 fingers?
It could be. Well, there's a group of people in Africa that have like bird feet. Have you ever seen them?
No.
They have toes. It's like a genetic mutation that exists, and it's thought to be like a prized thing. And these people have like 2 toes, and their feet branch off like this. And there's a bunch of people in this village that have these feet that are like this. I forget what they call them, like bird feet, or I forget how they describe them. Yeah, these are the folks. So see that?
Yeah.
So now if you found these guys, and there's not just one of them, substantial minority of Vadoma have a condition known as you said that, you're the doctor.
Ectodactyly.
Ectodactyly, which means the middle 3 toes are absent and the 2 outer ones are turned in, resulting in the tribe being known as the 2-toed or ostrich-footed tribe. So go to images and see what that looks like. It's really wild because there's like a bunch of them hanging out together. Like, look at their feet. So now if you found a body that had those, you would say, oh, those are aliens.
No, but look at that alien, if you go back to the one that was original, with the eyes and the face and the size.
Yeah, definitely.
These are grays, okay?
Well, it certainly looks like what I would think a gray would be.
Correct.
And the fact that it doesn't have a thumb is odd, too. But that is also one of the things that people have said about these things.
Yeah.
There's also this. They always have said that they have very long fingers, and you look at his fingers in relationship to the size of the body. They're very long. Long fingers and very long toes. Yeah. I mean,
So, how do you account for the fact that there are multiple, from the Assyrians to the Egyptians to the Aztecs, Toltecs, Mayans, where they have on their structures, they have imagery of flying saucers, on
Right.
helicopters, on alien. There's a couple with they look alien.
I think
How do you account
I
for
think
that?
the helicopter one, I think, is a fraud.
You think it's all fraud?
I think that one is.
But why
I
is
think
it
that's
duplicated?
photoshopped. I think it is. But
think?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's been shown. But the planes that they found that are like wooden carved planes,
yeah,
like they
physical.
look like airplanes that they found in tombs. That's fascinating. They have a rudder. They have a tail. They have
Right.
wings. And it looks like a
See
plane.
that? Yeah. So how do you account
That
for
is
that?
crazy.
How do you account for that?
Well, I don't know what we're looking at. And I think there's more to reality than we see. I have a feeling that our senses are extremely limited and that there's other dimensions that we don't have access to that might have access to us. I don't necessarily discredit the idea of something traveling from another planet.
Right.
I think we might be dealing
Dimensional.
with that too. I think we might be dealing with a bunch of different civilizations and entities that are at very different stages of evolution. So if life exists all throughout the galaxy, we know a bunch of things, right? We know that planets have certain ages. We know that some planets are very old and some planets are much younger, and we know that some planets are much closer to the sun and some planets live in a very hospitable environment. We know that some planets like ours are essentially in a shooting gallery because there's 900,000 near-Earth objects or more that are flying around, slamming into things. And if it wasn't for Jupiter, we'd be fucked. If it wasn't for Jupiter's enormous gravity and
Gravitational.
mass pulling everything into it, that's like basically our catcher. It catches all the shit that flies into our solar system and slams into Jupiter. And of course, the moon itself is pockmarked with. So imagine a planet that doesn't have that issue. Imagine a planet that has a different environment where there's not a bunch of shit flying around. And they think that flying around stuff is largely a part of collisions, like planets colliding with each other in the distant past. And that's actually how Earth got formed. You got a bathroom? Yeah, go.
Thanks.
This is a good time. I'm investigating this stuff.
Yeah.
I'll have
Jamie's
something when we get back.
investigating. Yes, I'm excited.
Is,
Investigate.
why would there be?
Just like, go pee. Go pee. Come on, buddy.
Thanks. To the left.
To the left.
Yeah.
This dude's already lit. He's had 3 giant glasses of whiskey. And he's 78 years old.
Yeah, I got a clear picture of that egg too. From
God, I hope my brain works that good, but I'm 78. You know what I'm saying? Like that dude he doesn't even have any notes. He's just pulling all his information out of the ether.
So the guy who took him. You mean to wait?
Which, the egg?
No. Fuck the egg. This is the Nazca mummy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He said he removed as many as 200 sets of remains from the cave.
Whoa.
Some of the bodies have been smuggled out of Peru to France, Spain, and Russia.
Oh.
In an interview with Reuters, he said, this is from
What would
April
you do?
2024.
Let's ask this. What would you do if somebody got you one of them mummies? If somebody said, hey, Jamie, give me
This
that
is a
money that you
different
won
one.
from Shane. Ooh, look at that. Whoa. The same thing, though. 3 toes.
Yeah.
Look how long the fucking toes are.
I think that's where the X-ray comes from. Is these?
Oh.
It's the same guy, this McDowell guy.
Oh, the same guy keeps finding them?
Yeah, it's the same people.
A little sus, right?
They found about 8, I think, is what they're saying here. And then the McDowell's father is saying they're having a hard time getting them to the U.S. to do more studies.
Oh, yeah. Super hard. Cut the fucking shit.
They're already pissed
Let me call
about them
Elon.
disappearing.
He'll shoot a rocket over there. Pick those things up quick. Let me see the skull again. Have they done an X-ray of the skull? Why would they do that?
I had an X-ray on one of these.
Of the skull?
Here you go.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Holy shit, dude. It looks
It's
like
one of
a
the smaller
skull.
ones, though.
Yeah, but whatever. Look
And
at
this
that
could
thing.
be eggs.
What?
I don't know.
What is that?
Like the ribs look. A little
Imagine
weird.
if you found out those are like anal toys and they're just freaks.
I do believe one of these they were saying was made up of different animal parts and
Come
stuff.
sit down and put a microphone on.
Yes.
So we're looking at X-rays of one of them is bullshit. Look at the fucking X-rays of the skulls, man. Like you're a doctor. Look at that. That looks like real shit, right?
That looks like real. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like real bones.
Well,
And
yeah,
a completely
the density,
different. Yeah.
X-ray shows it. The cavalium, the space for the brain.
What is that thing across his chest? What's that thing?
Instead of the sternum, it's their form of sternum.
Yeah, I guess, right? It's
Yeah,
like
because
some
the sternum holes are two sides, left and right together.
Maybe it had surgery.
Yeah.
maybe it's surgery.
Implant.
Jesus. Yeah, maybe that's its like neural link.
Where's this from?
So this is I was like digging more. This is from this year.
Look at that one. Look at that. Show that to Dr. Gordon.
Hmm.
Look at the same thing. Different finger, the long fingers, long toes. Same
Still
thing,
three. Yeah.
And real similar in the way they look.
Peru is. So all these are coming out of Peru?
They all came from the
Same area.
So that's
Well-
when you disappeared. They said they've gotten close to 200
I didn't disappear,
different
I'm here.
bodies. Well, you disappeared.
Yeah,
from the
I
room.
disappeared.
He just went to the bathroom, Jamie. Don't
Yeah,
get
I am
dramatic.
allowed to
You've
go. I didn't
reappeared now.
disappear. I just had to pee.
Disappeared.
Come on.
Jesus Christ.
Desaparecido.
It's like
sí.
he left you.
Yeah.
Look at that X-ray of the skulls, the skeletons,
Yeah.
though. Rather, it's
Those
so,
look
so
real.
fascinating.
Yeah, those look really
It looks
real.
very weird.
This is what I was seeing too. The videographer isn't known. They don't know who shot this video.
Well, it says the videographer behind the new footage is unknown in no small measure due to the thorny legal and ethical dimensions of handling these allegedly historical and culturally priceless ancient remains. That makes sense. I don't know exactly who shot the video, but there are context clues in the longer version. One source who had also been granted the tape told DailyMail.com. They call them Huaqueros, who has long been involved in the promotion of these Nazca mummies, was convicted of assault on public monuments for taking artifacts in 2022. So if you take these artifacts, they go after you. The man received a 4-year suspended sentence, was fined about 20,000 Peruvian soles, just $5,190 according to Reuters. A clear example of the high-risk, extra-legal measures some have taken to seek either truth or profit from these aliens. That makes sense. So it's dangerous to pull them out. You can get in trouble.
So then I think that what I was getting to too was the journalist
Yeah.
has a lawsuit.
He's taken the Peruvian government to court, hoping to negotiate with Peru, as he put it, to be allowed to export the samples to be done in America. The lawsuit is already in for $300 million. Wow. Explained he's pursuing monetary damages to repair his enterprise's damaged reputation, but intends to spend the cash on a museum for the mummies and hookers and a Ferrari. I want a Ferrari. And, and Dr. McDowell himself has also recently pled with Peru's government in an open letter published in one of the country's top newspapers, asking for official permission to study these specimens at top flight scientific facilities in the U.S. Well, I like that. I like that at least he's trying to get them, if it's true, that he's trying to get them studied. But you imagine if you were one doctor who did find these things, you would receive a tremendous amount of skepticism and assholes like me, like making fun of them. West Hollywood,
And
he's
you're
at the
doing it.
Mondrian.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, man. So when you look at that as a doctor, does that look like horseshit to you, or does it look real?
No, it looks real. I mean, the X-rays that you were showing. You know, the fact that they came from Nazca with all those lines, and I know about
And Machu Picchu.
And Machu Picchu.
Which is a really amazing place that they,
Yeah,
to this
14,000
day,
feet.
don't really understand how they built it.
Correct. Allison went there to Machu Picchu. Yeah. So she was
I wanna
chewing
go
on
Coca
on
leaves?
coca leaves
Yeah.
in a candy and so
Yeah.
forth. But I gave
have
her
coca leaves everywhere up
Diamox.
there.
I gave her Diamox so that she can
Oxygen?
oxygenate.
Yeah.
Diamox is the tablet you take to boost your
Cordyceps mushroom's good for that too.
There's a lot of things good for it,
Yeah.
but this is a pharmaceutical pill. But, you know, in my mind, knowing that it's Nazca lines and the association of possible aliens, and then finding these, you know, these corpses coming from Nazca, you know, you put one and one together and it makes sense that...
Sort of.
Sort of.
It
yeah.
also makes sense that if
But-
you were going to hoax things, that's where you would hoax them.
Correct. I got it. And that's skepticism
Look at the
that you have for it.
Well, I'm just being rational. I'm not being skeptical. I'm honestly not skeptical. I'm kind of open-minded
So you don't
about
believe
this
that
stuff.
it's real?
I don't know if it's real.
Oh, yeah.
I like to think it's real, but that's
Yeah.
the problem is that I really want to
So
think
what do
it's
you
real.
do? You say it's not real, but
I
it looks
don't-
real.
I don't say nothing.
Okay.
I just talk shit.
Yeah. That's what got you here.
That's what we're doing. We're just talking shit. I don't know. I'm not an expert in biology. I don't understand. I mean, the skeleton looks real to me, but what do I know? If I was going to make a fake skeleton, could I do that with a bunch of like discarded bones? Maybe.
Well,
What
people
I'm
could do it.
skeptical about is the way the joints they extend
On the fingers.
Well, not just the fingers, yeah, but they look like ours, right? Like the same way. If you go back to that skeleton again, please.
Correct.
If you look at it in the X-ray, what you see is the bones. They're formed that are very similar to the way ours are formed.
Correct.
Where at the end of it, not the one of the actual skeleton, Jamie. Yeah. So like, look at how the bones are at the top and where the joint is. That looks like how our bones are. Like the hinge in the joint of the elbow looks exactly like how a human's is, except it's one bone instead of two, which is, let's be honest, probably a better design.
Yeah.
You know, the two
Humerus-
bones. That little, I
humerus
broke
and
that little
radius.
one before. You ever broke the little one?
The little ulnar.
Yeah, I broke
Yeah.
the fibula too.
Whoa.
Yeah,
The small one.
yeah, the small one on the leg.
In
Checking a
jiu-jitsu?
kick. No, kickboxing.
Kickboxing.
Not even checking a kick. We were kicking at the same time, and
Let's put it
a
this
heel
way.
hit my shin.
It looks suggestive, okay, of
Uh-huh.
it being something that might be real.
It definitely looks
Yeah.
suggestive of something that might be real and very unique, right? Very different than our anatomy.
And it's our prejudice that says that, oh, we're the only people here.
Well, I don't think that.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. I think
Because-
I think the possibility that something could be so advanced that all of our ideas of how it got here and how long it's been here are just silly. I think we might be just like these people in the Amazon that my friend Paul Rosalie is running into. They don't know that he goes on the Joe Rogan Experience and reaches
Right.
15 million people. They don't have any idea. They have no idea. So what do they see? They see some guy with clothes on. Like, what's this asshole doing? And he's out there in the Amazon, and and then he takes a picture, and this is their experience with him is probably kind of similar to our experience, but except like much more exaggerated with aliens. Like if you came into contact with something that's a million years more advanced than us, like what would that contact be like? Are we so limited in our understanding of how you move through the universe that we assume that everything has to use rockets and everything has to burn fuel and shoot things and to defy gravity by pushing against it? And maybe not. Maybe there's much more advanced propulsion systems that exist.
Yeah.
These are the hands.
Yeah, they're dissecting it.
They're dissecting it. Whoa. What the fuck, man? Whoa.
Yeah, the
Doctor?
dissection,
What
they'll
does that
know.
look like?
That looks like weird bones in a hand. That's creepy. That's so creepy. Look at their skin. I mean, obviously mummified, but how fucking weird. How weird. Look at the
Yeah.
bones underneath it. That's crazy. That is so crazy.
And you're going to tell me someone put this together as a joke.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at this. I don't know
Yeah.
who's a part of this, but when he peels that back and you see those bones again, that is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
That's so wild. But also, why are those bones so clear for a mummified thing? Those bones look, in my mind, they don't look mummified. They look like more recent. But what do I know? It almost looks wet. Go back to that image.
Yeah, it was
So
wet.
The other thing was shiny too.
Right. So is that because they put something on it? Or is that what happens when you cut that thing open?
I'll try to find a longer video and see
Oh,
if
you
we
know,
can figure out how they did
them
it.
putting like distilled water on it during the process of
clean it
dissecting
off?
it. Yeah, to dissect it.
Maybe they're trying to clean off the bones and they
Yeah.
did something to it to brush it and
So
put
what
water
would-
on it there.
You know,
Whatever
old,
that is.
How old did they say that was?
That's a good question.
Did they carbon date it, or see that would be the thing to do is to carbon date it to find
Right.
out whether or not if it's that old, then it should be petrified and therefore it shouldn't look like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like if it's a million years old.
If it's a million
Right.
years
but
old.
if it's only 500 years old,
It's a
then
totally
things get
different
real
story.
weird.
So the way that the bones
Yeah.
should look.
Yeah. It's weird as shit.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, there's so many people that essentially make a living off of lying. they make a living off of bullshitting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. So religiously, I mean, look at from a religious standpoint, what's the impact of acknowledging that there are other species in extraterrestrials. What's the impact on religion here in the United States or here in the world?
It depends on
the
which
planet?
religion you're talking about,
It
right?
doesn't matter.
I think the
which-
Vatican has been pretty open to the idea that we're not alone and that God could
Okay.
possibly have created other life forms.
Right, so
See if
God-
that's true. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
I think the Vatican gave a statement within
The
the
Pope.
last decade or so about this.
Yeah.
But they
So-
probably know some shit, right?
Yeah, they
got
probably
a-
have it.
They got
You
a
know,
lot of fucking ancient
you've seen some of the Russian
books
stuff.
and
Yeah, you've seen
Russian
some of the
stuff.
Russian studies that where they had aliens who crashed in a flying saucer and they abused the aliens.
Vatican astronomer says if aliens exist, they may not need redemption. Oh, that's cool. Jesus gave him a fucking hall pass.
Blessed be those who come from other planets.
They may be a different life form that does not need Christ's redemption, the Vatican chief astronomer said. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if they come from somewhere else. Difficult to
What was
exclude
that?
the possibility
Yeah,
that other intelligent life exists in the universe. He noted that one field of astronomy is now actively seeking biomarkers and spectrum analysis of other stars and planets. That's true. They definitely have done that. These potential forms of life could include those that have no need of oxygen or hydrogen, he said. Just as God created multiple forms of life on Earth, he said, there may be diverse forms throughout the universe. That makes sense. That's an
There you go.
open-minded religious person.
Yeah.
It's not in contrast with faith because we cannot place limits on the creative freedom of God. That makes
There you go.
sense. Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you're going to be logical and be a believer in God, that's the way to do it, right? To say, look, if God exists, we just might be too limited in our understanding of the world to think that we think that God just made us and this is it. But it might be God has made life all throughout the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you believe in God, you have to accept the fact that he's on other planets. We're not the exclusivity.
Maybe God is the universe.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what they've been saying. God is the universe.
The universe is God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
God,
which
yeah.
makes sense because the universe is a creative force. It makes things constantly. It's constantly making stars. There's stellar nurseries and planets. And
So what's your take on Bigfoot these days?
I think Bigfoot is mostly nonsense. That
Okay.
is sort of a historical memory. I think for sure we know that Gigantopithecus was a real animal that coexisted with human beings.
Okay.
And we know that what's the date of Gigantopithecus? It's more than hundreds of thousands of years, right? But it just makes sense that if human beings have been around for that long and that thing's been around for that long, and then
Gigantopithecus.
200,000 years ago, 2 million to approximately 300,000 to 200,000 years ago. So as recently as possibly 200,000 years ago, but that's essentially based on what they found. Now they're constantly finding new things, right? So like they didn't even know Denisovans were a thing,
Which
which is
are-
a new type of human.
Is that the gigantic
No,
ones?
no,
or
they're
the
not
small?
gigantic. They're just a different. Like there was Neanderthal, Homo sapiens. Denisovan was another branch of the human tree, and they didn't discover them. I want to say 2010. When did they discover Denisovans?
That recent.
I think they discovered them in Russia,
Mm.
and they found them in China, and so they know that there's that. And then there was another species that they found recently that's even more recent. That's large-headed people they had larger heads than us that existed with us. They had like big fucking eyebrows and big heads. And
What about that? They're 17 feet tall, 16 feet tall.
What's
the
that?
Gigantic humans. That they're, I don't know.
What's that?
Here's the problem. You don't know what is real.
When was Denisovans? When they discovered that?
Well,
I
they
think
lived,
super
I
recent.
think, 75,000 years ago. But
Right.
How tall
discovery to
were they?
differentiate. They were like Neanderthal size.
When did they
Okay.
discover Denisovan fossils?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. They had it's one piece they found.
Right. But it was pretty recent. 2014? Yeah.
You're right. There's a lot of shit that's coming on the internet. The last thing that I was reading, not last, but one of the things that I read was they found bones of people that were like
Giant people.
giant people.
Yeah, I've heard of
giant
that
people.
before. I've never seen any evidence. I wouldn't dismiss it. There's giants in the Bible. There's giants in historical record where they
Goliath.
talk about yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely possible that if you have pygmies and you have, you know
whole
about the
spectrum.
Hobbit people
Yeah.
on the island of Flores?
No.
You didn't know about that?
No. But they're Hobbit.
Yeah, I think they call them Homo floresiensis. And what these are is these little tiny ape-like humanoids that lived alongside people. I think they've dated them to 100,000 years ago. Might be earlier. At one point in time, I think they thought it was 10,000 years ago, but I think they've pushed it back. But these were like another branch of the human tree, and they were really tiny. And they used tools, and they hunted, and they think that, that they were probably wiped out, at least partially. Yeah. Homo
Nice tits.
floresiensis.
Floresiensis.
And that's what they looked like. And they lived alongside us. So they think that might be a case of island dwarfism as well. There's a thing that happens to mammals when they're on islands where they get smaller. And weirdly enough, reptiles get larger. That's why you have Komodo dragons.
Love them.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
So there's Homo sapien and there's Homo floresiensis.
Monster lizards. Yeah.
There's like a bunch of different types of humans that existed. And we're the most clever and the most vicious. And
Yeah.
we win, ha ha.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the smartest. We're the smartest.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are the
It's
most
the
clever.
calvarium, the size of the skull as it got bigger.
But the thing is, these ones that they found recently, see if you can find that article, the
Which one?
large-headed people that they found recently, another totally new branch.
They're large-headed, but
Larger
the
than
same
ours.
height as
Yeah,
same height.
Same height as ours,
Yeah.
but larger heads, probably much stronger. They're like, Neanderthals, far stronger than us. Yeah, dubbed large-headed people. Enigmatic group once lived alongside Homo sapiens in Eastern Asia. According to Science Alert, fossilized remains unearthed from sediment layers dated about over 200,000 years ago revealed individuals with disproportionately large cranial volumes. So see, click on that, like where they have
December
images.
2024, just last month.
Yeah, real recent.
Yeah.
Real recent they found this, or they've come out with this. I think they
China.
had images of what they look like, what they think they look like. Like someone did like a detailed, large-headed people. You get regular folks. Here's regular folks with unfortunately big heads.
I got hit.
Yeah, Homo juliensis. Yeah. So this is another branch. Look at the size of that fucker. Jacked.
New humans.
Yeah, wild. Big heads, larger heads, and bigger brains.
There you go.
Bigger brains than us. Lived 200,000 years ago. It's funny because we have them like with like a stupid stone tool. Like maybe they were smart. Maybe we just fucking wiped them out. Look at the size of their heads, though. Jesus Christ. Crazy. Look at that one there. He's got a six-pack.
Yeah.
The guy standing up. Look at the one down where he's walking like Bigfoot. Click on that.
Yeah.
Look at this. The guy's jacked.
Huge.
Imagine
Look at
running
the
into that.
biceps and
Look at his fucking
deltoids.
head.
Look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine running into that dude.
No.
Back in
He's
the day.
dead.
Yeah.
He's-
That's probably why.
Look at him standing there.
Yeah.
Yo.
This is where
baby.
AI photos are helping getting us
AI
cool
is
shit.
awesome. Yeah. AI is awesome. Look at that. Make that bigger. Look how fucking cool they look.
Leyéndolo en español.
Bro, could you imagine
Yeah.
walking through the jungle and running into these dudes, like a bunch of them?
Yo. What do you want?
Look at it. Imagine.
Yeah. There is so much more to be found,
Well, just in our own history, right? The history of Earth,
Yeah.
the different forms of life that don't exist anymore. And there's so much variety that it really does make you wonder, like, what are we seeing when we're seeing these alien bones that they're X-raying? What are we seeing when, people report that they're experiencing contact with these entities? Are they from another dimension? Are they from another planet? Is everybody crazy? Is everybody just making things up?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do you account for all the people that said that I've been taken?
Yeah, it's very compelling.
I've been taken.
It's very compelling, but here's the question. Were they physically taken? Here's the question. The realm of dreams is a gigantic mystery, and the realm of dreams is hyper-realistic sometimes. I had a hyper-realistic dream last night. I wish I could remember what it was, but it's one of those things. It was crazy. But I got up in the middle of the night. It woke me up, and then I got up to pee, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then I went back to sleep. But while I was experiencing that dream, I remember being aware that it was a dream eventually. But while it was all going down, I was like, this is a crazy dream. Like thinking like this is so vivid and so realistic. So if you live in a dream for the rest of your life, you are still alive and you are still experiencing things. You're just experiencing things in a non-physical way, the way we interact with reality today. So you and I are interacting with reality with a couple glasses of whiskey, a cigar, we have a wooden table, we're talking into microphones. But the reality that you interact with in dreams is it's not tangible. It's existing, you're experiencing it, but it's in some other realm. It's some realm of the mind and some realm of consciousness. And maybe what you're doing is accessing a dimension of possibilities that is entirely created by consciousness. And maybe there's multiple layers to that, and things can come from other places to us that way. It's always been interesting to me that these people that have these abduction experiences, it seems like the vast majority, and I've read Abducted, which is John Mack's book, and you know, I'm aware of the Betty and Barney Hill story, and this is Travis Walton, the guy who got abducted
That's
in
the
Arizona.
black and white couple.
No, the Betty and Barney Hill.
Benny Barney Hill. Yeah.
Actually, Angela Hill, who's the granddaughter of them, is a UFC fighter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was on the podcast and didn't tell me that until after the podcast was over. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
That was your
great
grandfather?
conversation.
That's
Yeah.
so crazy. Her grandfather was Barney Hill. But so these people all have very compelling stories. Now, the difference between Travis Walton's story and the other stories is people saw Travis Walton go up to that UFO. Travis Walton disappeared for 5 days. Travis Walton came back from being in the woods for 5 days with this crazy story. And the other people, most of them, it happens at night, right? And so when you're dreaming, like, who knows what the fuck is really happening? And if you're lying in bed and you get abducted by aliens and they return you to your bed, like, what really happened? Is there a video of you disappearing? Or if we had like a video in that room, would you have this same experience, but your physical body never goes anywhere? So like, what are you really experiencing?
Yeah.
That's the question. And I'm not doubting that these people have something happen to them, but we do know that when people are dreaming, there's an endogenous release of psychedelic chemicals. There's this crazy experience of dreams and of vivid dreams and lucid dreams. So what is that? And if that is something that can be traversed, is that something that someone can enter into? Is it possible that other intelligence that's different than ours, that's more advanced than ours, that lives in a different dimension than ours, has access to the mind in these exchanges?
Yeah, in the subconscious.
Yeah, and
space,
maybe even
yeah.
physically. I'm not even dismissing physical contact, but I'm just saying that many of these cases where people claim to have been abducted happen at night. I don't think that is a coincidence. I think the realm of consciousness is, I think we're very arrogant in our belief that we understand what's going on
We
with
don't.
how we interface with reality.
No, we don't.
We know we have things that we
Subconscious.
count on because they're like, every time I come here, I'm pretty sure the same garbage is going to be on this table. It's going to be the same. But I don't think we're really sure with how consciousness interacts with the world and how much of it is real.
I agree. In the subconscious space, the question is that when the extraterrestrials invades our space, our
It could be.
psychiatric space, and therefore gives to us in our brain the perception of everything that we perceive, meaning the alien, the
Maybe even Bigfoot.
extraterrestrial.
Maybe
whatever,
that's what Bigfoot
everything.
But maybe that's
everything.
what Bigfoot is,
Yeah,
right?
but you think so?
Maybe. I mean,
That
maybe
it's our
it's
perception,
something,
unconscious?
maybe it's something you're
Subconscious?
experiencing that's from somewhere else. Or maybe it's your consciousness interacting with reality in a completely alien environment that is guaranteed to give you a heightened sense of anxiety. The woods at night, right? A lot of these people are experiencing these things in the woods at night. Maybe there's a level of consciousness you reach under those circumstances where you interact with things that you ordinarily cannot interact with. And maybe that's why there's a lack of physical evidence in our dimension. Like, the physical evidence in our dimension is very limited. One thing that's compelling, and maybe the only thing that's compelling, is dermal ridges that they find on these footprints. So they find these footprints in muck, like where they step in mud and muck and stuff, and they leave behind not just footprints, but footprints with dermal ridges like fingerprints, which is very difficult to fake, especially in like the 1970s and the 1980s where some of these things were required. So it's like, I don't know what we're dealing with, but there's enough people that talk about that experience and it makes you pause I don't believe, but I don't disbelieve. And
Okay.
as far as Bigfoot being an actual large ape that lives undisturbed in the Pacific Northwest, I'm very skeptical because there's too many hunters now and too many people with cameras and too many camera traps. There's too many cell phone cameras, where they trail cameras snap things that are going by.
Right.
Wildlife biologists use them.
Right.
We know of like a couple of jaguars that exist in the United States. And the reason why we know about them is because of trail cameras. So the fact that there's zero trail camera footage that's,
Alien.
yeah, it doesn't, the Bigfoot thing is like maybe. But maybe you're interacting with something that's not physical. It might be something that's interdimensional or something that you might be looking at the past. You might be interacting with whatever experience this thing has had many, 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 many years ago. It's like left echoes. It might be echoes in space and echoes in time. And that under certain states, you can briefly access these echoes, briefly access these things that may have existed or might exist in other dimensions. I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet the house on it.
Wow.
I wouldn't bet the house on it.
Yeah.
But
That sounds
I do
like
think there's a lot of bullshit artists too, though. I've talked to a lot of Bigfoot
See,
people that are bullshit artists.
Yeah, the balance that obviously you're talking about is the fact that there are so many people who are trying to present the factual evidence that it exists that causes you to doubt it. So, I believe that there's a possibility of all the things that we talked about, from Bigfoot to aliens and so forth. But there's a tempered perception of it as being reality, that it might be there, but we would rather deny it as opposed to accept it. Because what happens if you accept it as 100% truth? What is the mindset?
Well, you
on
can't
it?
accept it as 100% truth unless
no, but-
you have 100% evidence.
Yeah, you
right?
want
We
to
don't
have
that
physical.
yet.
You want to have physical evidence, but we don't have it. So
You know
until
who
we
believes in him?
Pardon?
You know who really believes in Bigfoot?
No.
Jane Goodall.
Oh, okay.
Which
the
is
gorilla
wild.
lady. Yeah.
Did you
She
ever
be-
heard her talk about it?
No. Why
She-
does she believe in it?
She believes from all the eyewitness sightings and the possibility and, her time living with primates.
Right.
See if you can find Jane Goodall talking about it. Because when she talks about it, she talks about it with great enthusiasm. It's really interesting.
Okay. Enthusiasm with facts to back it up, or
Well-
just the large number of people who have stated that they've seen it or experienced it, or
I don't know.
Yeah.
One thing, though, is like when she was saying this was quite a while ago, more than a decade or two ago. And I think that, over time, when there's still no evidence, people get more and more skeptical. I've talked to a bunch of people that have had Bigfoot experiences. I don't necessarily believe any of them. I don't disbelieve them, but I was like, there's not one story. I've talked to UFO abduction people, and I
Right.
believe them. I believe them.
you believe them.
Yeah, I believe Travis Walton. I talked to
Okay.
that guy. He does not seem like a bullshit artist, and he hasn't changed his story in like fucking 30 years.
Bigfoot. You
That's good.
Everybody
Yeah.
talks to me about. I'm romantic. I would like Bigfoot to exist. I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot, and I think the interesting thing is every single continent there is an equivalent of Bigfoot or Sasquatch. There's the Yeti, there's the Yari in Australia, there's the Chinese wild man, and on and on and on. And I've had stories from people who you have to believe them. So there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm always open-minded.
What about other
Yeah.
supposedly mythological? I guess I should say, like the Loch Ness monster,
Loch Ness Monster obviously doesn't exist.
alien
Why?
being.
Alien
We're
beings.
alone
What
in
you
this
thinking of that?
universe.
I don't. I think that it doesn't make sense to think we're the only intelligent form of life. This wall that was built between us, we're just the only really intelligent, capable of this, that, and the other. Difference in kind between us and the other animals, that wall is broken down, and the chimps help to break it down.
Do you
The chimps help to break it down.
Well, her experience with chimps,
Yeah.
she's been embedded with chimps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
take
don't. I definitely don't not believe. Like I said, don't disbelieve. It's not like I say aliens aren't real, UFOs aren't real. It's all lies. All the people are lying. I don't think that at all. I think
Yeah.
I think reality is weird. I think it's weirder than our senses are capable of detecting. That's what I think.
Absolutely. I tend to be more on the side that they exist until you prove that they don't exist.
You know what's really weird is underwater aliens. Underwater extraterrestrials or underwater
the cities.
UAPs.
Yeah.
I don't know about cities. Are cities under there?
Yeah, cities where they have their spaceships
What?
at the trenches, in the trenches. Yeah.
I've never seen any data.
No. Yeah.
But I have
See,
seen
that's
video.
the point.
There's
You need
video
to see
of
it.
things moving underwater at very high rates of speed. In fact, some of the whistleblowers, and again, how much that's real, but some of the whistleblowers from the government have claimed that they have detected things underwater that are enormous, like the size of a football field, and they're moving 500 knots underwater with which no visible means of propulsion.
Correct.
They think that this is where they hide in plain sight. They just exist in the water.
So those videos that have come out recently of the Navy aviators who have chased UFOs that have gone into the water, and they've seen these large reflections under the water of huge spaceships and so forth. Pardon?
I haven't heard any of I've heard there was the Commander David Fravor, the Tic Tac event where there was this thing that was like 20
Tic
foot
Tac,
wide.
yeah.
It looked like a Tic Tac. And they think there was something under it in the water. There was a disturbance that looked like, like an underwater submarine that's emerging or reaching the top of the surface. And then when they were flying near it, it went down. And then there's been other pilots that have actually seen large physical crafts in the water. But again, I've never seen any photos that are compelling.
So the
that.
chasing of that UAP,
That's
that went into the
fascinating.
water,
Yeah,
is that real or
well,
is that
wasn't
figment?
chased? The what they call those what do they call them? Extra medium and intermedium, transmedium. They call them transmedium crafts, which means they can fly in the air and they can fly through the water.
Right.
They have seen things dunk into the water. They have video of one, but it's very grainy. It's very grainy night vision, thermal vision of this thing dunking into the water, and then they don't know what happened. Then it came out of the water. It was flying around again. They don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
They're just guessing.
And looking at the physics of it, the fact that it was able to do a 90-degree change in motion.
Oh, yeah.
And then down into the water and then coming up. How do you account for that?
You don't.
Yeah.
The really crazy one is the Tic Tac, because the Tic Tac, they have a bunch of different types of data. They have, first of all, the pilots who saw it. They have the video from the pilots' cabins. They have this radar footage that tracked this thing going from above 50,000 miles to 50 feet in like 1 second.
Right.
They don't know how the fuck anything can do that.
Yeah,
and then it takes off. When they video it, this thing taking off from their visual, from their recording, their screens, it takes off at such an insane rate of speed. They said anything biological would just be turned to jelly instantly.
Killed because of
the G-force would just be insane.
Yeah.
It's just insane rates of speed. And no visible means of propulsion. It does it from a completely stationary perspective, and then
boom, gone.
Just takes off. Yeah.
They've talked about dimensional, the fact that those unidentified flying objects, they go into a different dimension as well.
Maybe a different dementia too.
Dementia. They're in a state of dementia.
Yeah, this is the one that goes in the water.
Yeah.
So look how grainy this is. It's like, what am I looking at?
So the fact that it's grainy means what?
Well, they're just looking at it from a long distance with aircraft,
so
optics.
So
these are weapon optics, right?
Yeah. So graininess means it's less.
Well, it's dark out.
Yeah.
Well, it's dark out, and this is how they're seeing this thing, and then it just goes into the water, and then if you hear it, you hear the recording. Hear the recording, Jamie?
Yeah.
Topside.
Listen to them freak out when it.
Yeah, they're freaking
Splashed. Mark bearing a range.
right into the water. Yeah.
So the thing went into the water,
Yes.
and then also went out of the water.
Tic Tac.
Yeah, but the thing is, how many of these things are ours? Not zero. How many of these things? Like, have you ever seen that underwater drone that the United States has developed?
No, I haven't seen that
Fucking
one.
cool. It looks like a UFO. Looks like a UFO that flies underwater. No. It goes underwater. It's not. I don't think it goes above the water. I think it only goes underwater. But it looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, but with the rate of acceleration and the ability to change direction, those are things that are in the real world. The physics behind it. as you said, everyone, if it went in that rate of ascent or descent and movement, it would kill everybody inside.
Right.
Momentum. Yeah.
But then the question is, like, what is it doing? Is it actually experiencing G-force at all? Because if it's some sort of a gravity propulsion device, it might be experiencing no G-force.
Right.
And it might be just pushing space out of the way as it moves forward. We don't understand.
Yeah.
That's like...
Do we have that technology?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
If we have that technology, then it explains it all. But the question is, as long as we don't acknowledge the fact that we're at that level of technology, then you have to account for where's it coming from.
Right. There's definitely a lot of questions. I mean, I definitely don't claim to have any answers.
Yeah.
What is this one?
But it's cool.
The manta ray thing.
Oh, yeah.
What
Look
is
at this
this?
sucker. Look at this.
This is the one that goes...
This is a drone that we developed. It's like a manta ray drone.
Yeah,
it's
the
really
mini
cool
sub.
looking. Well, it's not so mini. It's pretty big.
Is it?
But look at it. It looks like a fucking UFO that goes under the water. And it flies through the water. And also, like, what are we looking for? Are we looking for foreign subs or are we looking for aliens?
Both.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Wow.
That's imagine if they knew some stuff was under the ocean and they don't want to tell anybody because they don't want to freak people out.
Duh.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah. I've seen articles where it talks about cities, communities underneath the ocean in the not San Andreas Fault. What is that fault line called? Not the fault.
Outside of California?
No. The deepest
Mariana
trenches. The
Trench?
Mariana Trench. Yeah.
Are there cities down there? What websites are you reading?
Well,
I think I know what his algorithm.
you know what I'm talking about? and I'm not using psilocybin or ibogaine or ayahuasca.
Just normal. So
just normal.
I haven't heard anything about cities in
Yeah.
the Mariana Trench. Jamie, have you heard anything about cities?
Yeah, look it
Not yet,
up.
but I know where I'm headed.
You know,
I know
where
what's
I'm
going to be
headed.
on this YouTube channel. I know
I haven't smoked anything or taken any pills.
You've been
okay?
drinking whiskey since...
That's nothing.
you've
Come
had
on.
Quite a bit of that whiskey, sir.
It's nothing.
That's a lot.
Glutathione.
Yeah, I don't know if it totally helps. You sound a little hammered.
You think?
Yeah, give me another one in glutathiones.
You need another one? Okay.
How many you got?
Yeah, I got
How many
plenty.
do you take while you're
I
drinking?
took two. I took one early this morning and then just took another one because I figured we'd finish the bottle.
Jesus, you with the finishing the bottle.
Absolutely.
You're going to die from that.
No.
This really helped you level
Nick,
that
who's
one.
sitting outside, he and I sit down and we'll drink a bottle,
Yeah.
over a period of about 4 hours.
You might want to go to a AA meeting.
You think? Been there.
What is the Mariana Trench cities all about?
No, it's not the Mariana. It's one of the trenches that are out there in the world.
Just Google trench
Yeah,
underwater
trench,
UFO
underwater
city.
UFO. Yeah, that's a good one.
You're going to go right to Reddit.
Yeah, you know what? We've been on this discussion about bears and Mariana Trench
Birds.
and UFOs
Yep.
and abductions and so
Yep.
forth.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of 438 where we were talking about every fucking thing. I mean, you blew me out of the water with that. I'll tell you the truth. We were there for 3.5 hours on the first one, and when I left the studio, because I thought it was in Woodland Hills,
Right.
I thought it was only supposed to be like 30 minutes or so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I left and I sat in my car for an hour to recuperate from that first visit with you. It was just way beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah, if there really are things that are monitoring us and checking us out, it makes sense.
Yeah.
If life exists and it's more advanced than us somewhere else, whether it's in another dimension or whether it's on another planet, it completely makes sense to me that they would visit us.
Yeah. They
Why
want to
wouldn't
see
they?
how fucked up we are in
Oh, yeah.
terms of nuclear weapons. How?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if we're on a path, a predictable path of evolution that almost all intelligent life goes on, there's probably going to be pitfalls that they could help us navigate.
I would think
know?
so. I would hope so.
Right, like if
Yeah.
Jane Goodall's studying the chimps, like let's imagine they're still studying the chimps 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now,
Okay.
100,000 years from now. Let's imagine civilization still exists, chimps still exist. We've protected it. We've done the smart thing, and they still. What if they start making tools? What if they start making weapons? What if they eventually start going to war with each other? What if one chimp figures out gunpowder? Look, if their brains keep growing like ours allegedly did.
Sounds like us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
us
Like
from the
so
beginning.
imagine if we're observing emerging intelligence in other
Evolution.
primates other than
Yeah.
us. How would we handle it?
Yeah.
Like how would we handle it if all of a sudden chimpanzees not all of a sudden, but hundreds of thousands of years now, what would our future society do if in the future chimpanzees start developing weapons and buildings and planes and doing all the shit that we do when we're far more advanced than that then?
Is that Planet of the Apes?
Well, it's not, because like you would think that they would become a different thing. You know, they would
You would
become
hope.
like we did, right? Like we used to be Australopithecus, we used to be all these different hominids. What if they eventually become like more hairless? They start wearing clothes. It would be fucking real interesting to see how human beings would handle that. You know, like what would we do 1,000,000 years from now if hominids kept advancing down an evolutionary plane,
Right.
and they eventually got to a place where they were like ancient humans? How would we do? I mean, if we were like super advanced, like, oh, you guys can't go to war. Don't war. We stopped war a while ago. You guys need brain chips. Brain chips stop the war.
Control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I mean, it is interesting because, like, what's different between us and any other people that have ever lived is that we've figured out a way to optimize your health in a very substantial way. In the past, someone who was my age, I'm 57, someone who was my age, your body's probably broken. You know, your body is probably like beaten down. Your hormones are dead. You know, you're probably like real tired all the time. You know, and I'm not. You know, and because of vitamins and hormones and all the different things that I do to keep my body healthy and exercise, and we're living in a different time. And because of that, you stay vital. You have vitality much longer than anyone ever did before. So you can explore things, and you have more curiosity and energy for thought, more than anybody ever has before.
Yeah. With the wow.
You all right?
Yeah. You do CPR?
Nope.
Oh, good.
One of those guys out there knows how to do it.
He does it?
Yeah, Jamie's real good at it. Jamie practices every night with different dudes.
He does, yeah, I can imagine. No, one of the greatest fallacies is that as we age, we don't need to do anything to reinvigorate our body.
Right.
Supplements are very important. Hormones are key.
Exercise.
Exercise is important because of, as I said, about the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You can increase it to improve brain. There's a guy out of USC, Caleb Finch, who talked about he believed that the reason for why we age and we die is because we lose our hormones in our brain, and therefore extremely important. Or is the scotch? Yeah, there it is.
That's what you need, more of that.
No, I need to clear the throat. Yeah, look at that. I got my voice back. Yeah. So as you said, you're 57 years of age. I'm 72 years of age. And I think the reason why I'm at 72 with the level of clarity and functionality, aside from my back, is the fact that 30 years I've been a hormone replacement, nutraceuticals, getting in good vitamins, so forth, because our body loses it over the course of time. And you need to keep replacing it. And the people who are listening to this might understand that you need to supplement. You need to be proactive on your quality of health. Otherwise, you start losing it.
And exercise, not just for that, but also just to maintain your physical presence,
Right.
your strength, your bone density.
Yeah. You know, at my age, people say, I still have my pecs. I still have my, trimness and fitness. I don't know about general energy. Because,
Do you still do martial arts anymore?
No, I stopped doing the martial arts. What I do in place of martial arts is I dig holes and,
we talked about that
and
before.
put plants in.
Garden, which is
Not
hard
the
work.
other holes.
Digging holes is hard work.
Yeah. I remember one time you sent me an email that says, be careful, because I was using a big pike to cut holes in the ground. But I end up with lemons, and I make limoncello, pomegranates, make pomegranate wine, and so forth.
Yeah. I'm sensing a trend here.
Yeah. And I sent you some kumquats. Did you ever get the kumquats?
I
said,
did.
yeah.
Thank you.
Did you eat them?
Yes, I did. Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah. High in vitamin C. A lot
Kumquats are really good for you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Like
awesome.
much more high in vitamin C apparently than
Correct.
even oranges. Right?
Oranges, right. Every morning I have 3 of them.
That's great.
3 of them, and it's great.
Do you take liposomal vitamin C as well?
I take liposomal vitamin C.
C, yeah. Yeah, I take that stuff too. That's such a great thing too if you're sick, is high dose intravenous vitamin C. It's a big one.
IVs. Let's see.
Yeah. I had a skeptical friend of mine who dismisses all kinds of quackery. He was real sick with the flu. He couldn't get over it for weeks. And I told him, listen, man, I'm going to hook you up. Do this. Get IV zinc and vitamin C and high-dose vitamin C and B12. And he was better immediately. He said 24 hours later, he goes, couldn't kick this fucking flu. He said, I had it for 2 weeks.
Yeah. In 23 years, I've been sick 16 days.
That's amazing.
That's it. I never got, well, let me be honest. I got COVID for 12 hours.
12 hours?
12 hours. Tested twice, positive for COVID. That was a Wednesday. Let's see, it was a Wednesday. I think we were having Yom Kippur. No, we were having Pesach, Passover. And I got sick that night, and 24 hours later, no symptoms.
That's amazing.
Nothing. Quercetin, zinc, a little ivermectin, you know.
That's crazy. You shouldn't talk about that publicly.
No, I should not.
Ivermectin.
Yeah, ivermectin. Horrible shit.
It's weird that you can talk about it now.
Oh, good.
Now, fucking people are taking it.
Yeah. I think I sent you the ivermectin paper with ivermectin and fenbendazole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a 76-year-old veteran who was diagnosed with a Gleason 7. You know, Gleason is the grade of cancer of the prostate. And it was a Gleason 7. He went on 12 milligrams of ivermectin every day for 8 weeks, and at 12 weeks, he got a PET scan done, a special PET scan done, looking at abnormalities in the prostate. They couldn't find anything.
That's amazing.
And his PSA, prostatic specific antigen, when his initial one with the cancer was 12.6, he's now at 5.3.
Is that your phone?
I don't know. What does this cell phone sound like?
Sounds like that.
It does?
What do you think about all the people that are very... Yeah, you had a Samsung phone. It's definitely yours.
Significant.
Is that a Google phone or a Samsung phone?
Google.
Google? You like that?
Let me shut that. Yeah, I like it. They keep on trying to get me out of the first grade, first generation into the seventh, until it dies.
Oh, yeah?
I use it, yeah.
Ride or die, huh?
Yeah. I don't like the software they put in there.
Google just gave me the new Pixel 9 XL Pro. It looks sick. And then they gave me the Pixel Fold as like a gift when I went to the inauguration thing. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Oh, you were there at the...
Yeah, I wouldn't... the Fold seems crazy. I'm addicted enough to watching YouTube videos on a regular phone. I don't need a fucking tablet that I take. Have you seen what Huawei's made?
Oh.
Huawei, they're banned in America because they're too awesome, and also they spy on you. But Huawei has developed a 3-fold, and apparently Samsung's going to come out with one next year.
They have a 2-fold.
It's a 3-fold, though. It literally comes out to like a 10-inch tablet. It's and it's very thin.
Wow.
Look at this.
Wow, yeah, I saw...
Look at that.
I saw that.
That's a 3-fold.
2-fold, yeah.
That's the Huawei 3-fold.
Yeah.
And super thin, amazing cameras. They were so advanced. I was trying to get a Porsche design Huawei phone. They were working with, Porsche design makes a bunch of things. They make like watches and sunglasses. They don't just make cars. Like Porsche design is like a separate entity of Porsche. And Porsche design work with Huawei to make like the ultimate cell phone. And I was ready to buy it because I'm a dork. I'm really into technology. And I was like, oh, that thing's crazy. Let me get it. And then I think I had a 100 megapixel phone camera on the phone. And this was a while ago. And a 5,000 milliamp battery, which was also crazy. But then they banned Huawei products in America. Mm-hmm. So you can't get that trifold.
Backdoor right to the CCP.
Yeah, allegedly. But isn't TikTok too? Like, isn't all these things? There's a lot of backdoors. There's a lot of data getting scooped up.
Yeah, my cybersecurity people keep on telling me don't use Zoom because it backdoors into the CCP.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I haven't used it. So I use Microsoft.
What the fuck can you use?
Yeah.
I don't trust anybody anymore.
No.
I'm scared.
I'm there with you. Yeah.
Scared of all of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's all inevitable, and I think if you look at the what's going on, like in terms of like what's the direction that technological progress moves us into? Well, it's the direction, it seems, of more and more connectivity, which means less and less privacy. So we're going to have to work that out, because when quantum computers can crack all encoding, it's like any encryption that exists, quantum computing is going to crack all that. So you're not going to have real encryption anymore. So like, what happens with Bitcoin and digital currency? What happens with all that stuff? What happens with your bank account? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're in weird times.
Yeah. One of the things that scared me was in the Wi-Fi, they now could go back and using AI, use the transmitted wave form to see who's in a room.
Yeah.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accurate 3D representations of the people moving around.
Yeah. So I turned off all my Wi-Fi extenders.
It's also
Turned
crazy.
them off. Yeah.
It's just like we're living in an ultra surveilled world, and I think the good news is that the new government is emphasizing privacy and freedom of speech, and the other government was emphasizing cracking down on what they called misinformation and disinformation and more control of what you say and do and where you go. And the way to get more control is more invasive technology, and that's what scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Is people. Yeah. It's not necessarily the technology. It's people taking advantage of the technology in order to have more control of the population, which makes their job easier.
Yeah. That's the reason why I only use my cell phone when I travel. Otherwise, I don't use it. People call me and say, "Where are you?" I said, "I use my cell phone."
Good for you.
Yeah. It's off all the time.
My friend Adam Curry, he's a super paranoid. Maybe not paranoid, maybe super aware of like digital surveillance and all that stuff. So he has a de-Googled phone. He has a phone that doesn't have Google on it, and it's what are those? What's that operating system that they use for that stuff? Do you remember, Jamie?
Yeah. Doesn't your friend Musk have a phone that's coming up?
No. I just asked him the other day.
He said no.
We were talking the other day at the inauguration. I was saying, dude, every other day I get an article about a Tesla phone. He was laughing. He goes, "I hope we don't have to make a phone." This is what he said. I hope we don't have to make a phone because it's very difficult to make a phone.
But whoever's promoting
Graphene,
it.
That's it, Graphene OS. So Graphene is de-Googled phone. So they take these pixels and they de-Google them and they put this Graphene OS, which is a completely different operating system.
Yeah.
And then you have another phone called the unplugged phone that
Pixel 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And so they use these things and they work just like a regular phone. Yeah. And you can get them where they don't have 5G because some people think 5G is bad for you.
No, I still work off of 3 and 4, and I don't update the software because updating the software gives them more access to you.
Dun, dun, dun.
I got to go again.
Well, let's just wrap it up. We're at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Mark Gordon, I love you to death. You're an awesome guy. I appreciate you very much. It's always good to see you. Thank you for all your research and all the work you do and spreading information and knowledge. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the fact that you've supported me over all these years in the work that we do with our veterans, and they've been receiving the benefits of the work that we've done. And, stopping the suicide is the goal for the Millennium Health Centers. That's it.
Yeah, and tell everybody the website so they can find it.
The educational one is www.tbi.
I don't think you have to
Help
say
Now.
www.
I don't have to say.
No.
How about W cubed?
You can just type in the
TBI Help Now.
TBI Help Now.
Helpnow.org.
And then is Warrior Angel Foundation still?
Warrior Angels Foundation's there, but they've melded into. This is
improve brain health by fixing the root causes.
Yeah, this is Biohack Yourself, and I'll give a minute on it. A family called Lolly Group, and if you were in Washington for the inauguration, the Biohack Group, which is the Lolly Group, which is Anthony and Teresa Lolly, they're the ones who put together Biohack Yourself, which has been picked up by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as being their representative for media because he trusts them because all they want to do is get the science out there that's real, not the bullshit that's been thrown at us. So they've been pulled in, and there were 32 of us, quote, experts is what they call us, who participated in this program. So what they're doing is really cool because it's presenting the science behind what you've already experienced with us and what I continue to promote for brain health, for well-being and longevity, anti-aging.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir. Appreciate you.
Always appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Always good to see you.
Will do.
Goodbye, everybody.